addressing people when he was talking, when he had it with him.
When he was receiving the report from the task force, right? No distance.
This is social distancing.
Yesterday, when the CS Mutahi Kagwe was in Udhaya,
there was nothing like distancing.
No social distancing. No. So this is what my argument is. If people are sitting in a restaurant during the day, in a bar, all right, let's call it a bar, during the day, and they're observing social distancing during the day up until 5 p.m., then they are still observing social distancing. If you've converted this from being a bar into just being, we're not selling alcohol anymore. We're just sitting here, we're having a meeting. And curfew is going to come in effect at 9 p.m.
Next year,
we are still observing the same social distancing. We're not
selling alcohol. They came with their own alcohol.
No, we're not selling alcohol at all.
But they were.
It's just a social gathering.
But in this case, they were, Eric.
They were not selling alcohol. It's just a social gathering. They had bought earlier.
People were drinking. Oh, Eric is trying to say they bought this alcohol and they still happen to have been drinking the remnants of said alcohol at 7:30.
Closed at 5. Okay? People still sat here. Now they converted this thing into a social gathering. There were less than 15 people. So they were still legal. They were observing physical distancing, 1.5 meters.
Wait. Were you there?
It's the same people.
Answer the question.
I was not there.
Eric probably
were these people arrested at 5?
Eric probably knows people who are there.
Were these people arrested at 3 o'clock? Because if they were not arrested at 3 o'clock for flouting physical distancing,
then they shouldn't have been arrested at 7.
Uh-huh. They were not flouting physical distancing. They passed the test earlier.
By whose
standards? It's not actually because now it has become dark. Now they have started flouting. No. Give us another reason why you want to arrest people.
Who?
Police.
Oh, okay. I'm sure they're going to be banging down the door waiting to give you that explanation.
That's a problem. That they don't feel accountable. Oh. No, we demand accountability.
Okay.
Stop harassing people.
Uncle, sorry.
Who are sitting down thinking about how to emerge from this COVID-19, working up, economic plans.
Over this weekend, Eric, something happened to you, isn't it?
I'm telling you.
I had a revelation.
Clearly.
No. This is what I'm getting at. It's clear to me that you become a clairvoyant.
I had a revelation that, what? People are willing to fight COVID-19 in their own ways.
Uh-huh.
Same way we are seeing leaders fighting COVID-19, we apply the same yardstick.
Leaders fighting COVID-19. Okay.
It's rich.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've already passed the 100 mark of people who've died of COVID-19 in the country.
Yes.
Right? And that in itself is something that is big. Have we passed our threshold of 3,000?
Oh, that happened a couple of days ago. Quite a number of days ago, actually.
Okay, our day was for 3,500.
Do you see how you're changing the
number? What day was it?
Eric, what's wrong with you, really?
It was. City, wasn't it? 3,500.
It was actually 3,000.
We went beyond
3,000. Beyond 3,000.
We said 3,000 was too close. It was just next door. So I think we spoke about, Eric is right. We did speak about 3,500.
Well, 3,000.
And this is not men banding together.
Why so quick to a defense, CT?
Because I know how your mind works.
I have not said anything. 3,594 cases in the country with 103 deaths in Kenya. Now, if you want to look at, are we going straight to this?
Yep.
All right, the numbers around the world. 7 million. Right, so this is quite daunting, especially if we're looking at the countries from where they're coming out of. 7,989,586. By tomorrow morning, the world will be at, probably by tonight, the world will be at 8 million cases and probably cross over that. In the United States, in one state specifically, in Florida, they recorded the highest number of cases in one state in the history of COVID in Florida, and that was 2,670 cases on Friday. And this was just in the state of Florida. So they're seeing increased cases per state. It was around 12 states that they were really worried about seeing increased numbers. But then they saw that this now had risen to just under 20 states by Sunday. And this was by yesterday. So now the United States with 2,162,144 cases and 117,853 deaths in the US and rising. Mexico, we're looking at between midnight and now, the last 6 hours, 4,147 cases with 269 deaths recorded within the same time period. Brazil is still high up there, number 2 in the world with 867,886 cases and 43,389 deaths. And we're likely to see these numbers increasing. We saw Pakistan had risen in some numbers last week, but this seems to have staved off now, not being recorded as such, as was as high as the last time. And this is the trajectory that we are seeing now. If we want to take a look at South Africa for the African continent, it crossed 50,000 a few days ago and had gone up to 60,000. Now South Africa stands at 70,000 and 38 cases with 1,480 deaths.
Mm.
So, yeah. This is what we see. The numbers, save for the United States and Mexico, and some of the Southern American and Central American countries, things around the world seem to be more or less the same. Addition, with countries where we see ramped up testing like South Africa, and then continuous testing in Kenya, are looking at an average of about 100 a day. We're looking at that in Kenya now. And so this is what we see. Countries like Tunisia, who've never risen above 1,100 cases in the last 3 weeks. So these are some of the things that we are seeing now. And it continues in this fashion.
Okay. I think coming back to Kenya, where yesterday the CS said 32 more patients had been discharged from hospital. So total number of recovered cases is 1,253. That's still, some good news that here, seeing the number of people who are recovering. And then also, and I think we'll be mentioning this later in our newspaper review when we're talking about what is the leading cause of death for people who have COVID-19. What else do they have? And it shows that cardiovascular ailments and conditions, people who have cardiovascular are a majority of those that have succumbed, right? And then we have others with other ailments who have also succumbed. Somebody pointed this out to me yesterday, that it took about 60 days for the number of COVID-19 cases to hit 10,000 in Africa. Then it took another 18 days for that number to double. Well, it indicates increased testing. It also indicates rising number of cases.
It does.
In Africa. And I keep telling, crossing my fingers, just like I was saying last week, that this is never classified as the next epicenter of this virus.
Well, as that is happening, you also have global experts, as you would call them, at the same time now talking about the fact, or talking about the belief in a second wave of infections imminent on the globe. And from all indications, it looks like this could be the case. Quite a number of cases are going to be infectious. And apart from that there will be a different strain of COVID that could be a little bit more lethal, and this is what they're looking at. The World Health Organization seems to have lost credence as well, having talked about now asymptomatic cases, where previously they had said asymptomatic individuals then were incapable of infecting others. And this came out as an announcement from the World Health Organization, but this is proving not to be the case now. So they're receiving a lot of flack now.
This is normal, by the way. When you have something that is new, it means there is no determined way of dealing with it. So you're always in the process of trying to figure out
every time. Exactly.
Where the error comes in is when you speak about what you know as being authoritative without giving that particular room for look. As of now, what we understand is this. But no, what you should do is this. And then not long after, information comes by and you are now informed that may not be entirely the whole story. For instance, they are questioning this particular notion that COVID is airborne. Research is beginning to question, and why they're questioning is saying there isn't sufficient evidence to prove that COVID is airborne.
Yeah.
They're not saying it isn't. They're just saying they're looking and they don't see.
They're still not finding any sufficient proof.
Anything conclusive.
Yeah.
And that is why the emphasis is in just washing your hands. And then the social distancing. Again, social distancing was because it was assumed it was airborne. Any epidemic, any viral epidemic, if you look at it, the story regarding or surrounding the cure for it has always changed with time. It's not that you were lied to. It's just that at that point in time, the information that was available lent itself to a certain understanding. Yes.
Was pointing in this direction.
Yes, it was.
Has the WHO come up and said something different about the asymptomatic cases?
No, they've not given a rebuttal.
Because so far what they were saying is, I mean, what that lady said is, what we are seeing is, in many of the cases, somebody who's asymptomatic is less likely to be infectious, right? So why would they lose credence over that? Why are people arguing about that?
This is what they said when?
Last week.
Yeah, but you see,
at the end of the week.
Yeah, but now what the problem is that before the World Health Organization said people who are asymptomatic, then it would be very rare that they would affect people. So I think people.
That's what they were saying. Yes.
People picked up on that and said, okay, well, that is not the case. But then when you find out that quite a high percentage of people are asymptomatic and people continue to get infected, it points to the fact that people who are asymptomatic can infect other people.
But that is not based on anything.
I'm telling you what they've said.
You know this.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, when they're arguing against WHO and saying that you're losing credence over this, why would they lose credence over that? I mean, they've
what
come out to say...
What is it that they have said which is completely false?
Yes. They haven't... What they're saying is we are seeing that people who are asymptomatic are less likely to be contagious.
And by the way, this one an epidemiologist would probably give us more accurate information. With HIV, your viral load was very much a determinant of whether you could actually easily infect, yes or not. Because it's a virus.
Yes.
So if a lot of it is present in your body, the likelihood of you transmitting it is higher.
It's higher.
This is really not complicated. If you go to an area that is predominantly known for malaria, you are very likely to get malaria. If you come from a place which has never recorded any malaria to speak of, then you are less likely to have malaria. This isn't something that is strange. Like now there's this issue of cardiovascular diseases being related to COVID. Okay? Now, one thing that is certain is most of the people, for instance, in this country, this is data that we now have, they already exhibited, meaning they already had some diseases or some conditions that more or less predispositioned them towards a problem of that nature. One, the age, which means their immune system was already lower, and some of them already had heart problems. So if you compound it with what COVID-19 does, the likelihood of dying was much higher.
True.
Yes.
17 minutes after 6, let's take a short break, take a look at the weather, and then we'll begin looking at the newspaper headlines. Good morning. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's a Monday morning and it's mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 14 degrees. It's likely to have lots of rain today all the way into Tuesday, but let's see what that looks like as the day progresses. Highs of 21 and lows of 12. Nyeri is mostly cloudy this morning at 14 degrees. Thunderstorms are also forecasted for the central Kenya town. 21 degrees the high and lows of 13. Moving on west in Nakuru at 14 degrees, 22 degrees the high and lows of 13 with thunderstorms forecasted for the afternoon. In Eldoret, it's mostly cloudy at 12 degrees as well, following in same succession. It'll be a rainy afternoon in Eldoret. Let's take a look into Kisumu. We're at 19 degrees. It's partly cloudy this morning, but the rains will come in quite early with highs of 26. Kakamega at 16 degrees is partly cloudy, 24 degrees the high and lows of 15, with thunderstorms are forecasted for the afternoon. It's very cloudy in Malindi, giving all indications of rain, highs of 29 and lows of 26. And in Mombasa, it's clear skies this morning, and it's likely to be that way through most of the day, with highs of 28 and lows of 24. All right, let's skip over the border. And in Kampala at 19 degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 18 with showers expected in the afternoon. Dar es Salaam is partly cloudy at 22 degrees, highs of 30 and lows of 21. Partly cloudy conditions will remain throughout the day. In Johannesburg, it's pretty chilly this morning at 3 degrees. We'll see highs of 14 and lows of -2 today, however, with clear conditions. Lagos, light thunderstorms already this morning in the southwestern city. Highs of 31 and lows of 24, currently at 26 degrees. All right, let's take a peek into London at 13 degrees. It's clear skies this morning. It'll go into rains this afternoon with highs of 23 and lows of 13. Paris at 15 degrees is partly cloudy. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 14. And let's roll it out in the Big Apple at 18 degrees. It's clear. Still Sunday night. We will see highs of 23 and lows of 15 throughout the day, and the sun will keep on shining.
Twenty-two after 6, if you are tuned in to Spice FM on 94.4 in Nairobi, live streaming on www.spicefm.co.ke, also live streaming on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, Spice FM KE. The live stream is up and ready. We can see people who have logged in like Dorcas and Dorcas.
Dorcas, good morning.
Be kind. CT, what is today's proverb?
Do not step on a dog's tail and he will not bite you.
You hear that, Dorcas?
This is a Cameroonian saying.
Do not step
on a dog's tail and he will not bite you.
Okay. Straightforward. Straightforward. So let's begin taking a look at the newspaper headlines and see what's on the newspapers. Now, remember, the Standard Group, fellow Kenyans, the Standard Group has come up with a very innovative way of you accessing the Standard newspaper from wherever you are. The Standard e-paper is now available to you. If you're on Safaricom, all you need to do is dial star 550 star 2 hash. That's star 550 star 2 hash. And you get to access the Standard newspaper for only 20 shillings. You don't need no apps. You don't need no sign up. You don't need no data charges. Nothing. It's just 20 bob. And you get to read the newspaper the way it is. All right. From the Standard Group. Star 550 star 2 hash. And we'd like you to sample this. And we'll be able to give you 1,000 worth of airtime this morning. So just to get you to get this 1,000 bob worth of airtime so that you can access the Standard newspaper, between the front page and page 5 of the Standard, there's a story that I'm going to read, whose intro I'm going to read. I want you to tell us what page that story is, and you tell us the headline of that story. Here's the story. 2 different courts have refused to grant a man a divorce from his wife of 13 years so he could remarry. Instead, the Magistrates Court and the High Court are in agreement that the man should continue living with a woman he accuses of being cold and distant. This is in stark contrast to recent rulings where courts have decreed the marriage is a contract between willing parties who cannot be forced to live together if love withers and dies. From the case, it emerged that the couple identified as DKK and JWG were childless. DKK, the man, moved to the Magistrates Court in 2018 where he argued that their marriage could not be salvaged. He He's accused his wife of being uncaring, deserting the matrimonial home, and cutting off all communication. But the woman JWG says her estranged husband had filed for divorce after she refused to break her marriage vows and leave him so that he could remarry. The wife argued that because they were married in church, the man had realized that divorce was the only way he could wed another woman without being accused of bigamy. So, basically, the magistrates court and the high court have said, no, you two are joined in the hip.
Oh.
We have refused to grant you divorce. This is on one of the pages between the cover page and page 5. For 1,000 shillings worth of Safaricom airtime, just call in 0719-012-600 and tell us what page this story is and what's the headline. You can access that story just by dialing *550*2# on Safaricom, and you'll get the Standard newspaper. No need to download any app, no need to worry about data charges, and no need to think about being asked to sign up. Right? What other interesting headlines do you have? We'll reward somebody 1,000 bob, as they call in. City? Interesting story?
Like oh my goodness gracious me, in the nation there's plenty. But the thing that I think grabbed my attention was one of local scientists' zero on herb in COVID-19 war. Okay? Herb.
Yes.
Now, when people talk of medication or drugs, one of the things that I think is sometimes lost in our thinking and reasoning is that most of what we consider to be drugs, or in tablet form or in solution form, they are derived from some plants or they are, yes. This is what, even when there's some chemical concoctions that are added to it, that's where they're derived from. And this is something that very many communities have had for the longest time. Now, people who are involved in scientific research will argue and say, it may be so, but one of the things that you want to test is something that may not be known. Okay? When you have taken the drug, we know the wonderful properties it has. What about the repercussions from this drug, which are non-positive?
The side effects.
Yes. Side effects is the technical name that we give them. So, what scientific research tries to determine is not just the side effect, but the side effects. How, in addition to ensuring that it cures or it helps cure the problem that you may have, what else it could do for you. That's why whenever you buy drugs, there is usually a leaflet. It's a page in really small print. Okay?
Telling you very many things.
Yes. One of the section you must look at is the one they indicate contraindications. So if you have a heart problem, you don't take this. If you're expectant, you don't do this. If you already have, and that arises from the research that they've done. So now here, this drug, this particular herb that they're talking about, has proved to be effective when it comes to malaria treatment. Now this story of malaria isn't new. The question is, what quantities do you give? How do you give it?
It's the dosage and all.
Yeah, that's where now,
things.
yes, it's all those things. Not just give somebody something like 2 liters of it and tell them to drink it. No. Now, what again is going to happen is, this is one herb. I am certain
there are many others.
Yes, other herbs will come along, concoctions will come along.
But this is the same herb that the Madagascars are using.
They've been using it for a long time.
Right? And it's the same one that they have now packaged and they're selling worldwide.
COVID organic, yeah.
COVID organic, that's exactly. And then now in Kenya, we actually had a conversation about this the other day, and people were calling in and telling us, in fact, Cukes have a name for it. Wajiro wa Rurie.
Wajiro of who?
Wajiro of Rurie.
And who is Rurie?
Rurie is basically plains.
I see. So this is the daughter of the plains.
Yes, it's a Wajiro of the plains.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, and even here, people have used it for many years. They know how this thing is. Somebody was calling from Nyeri and told us, this thing, my friend, is so bitter that you have to find ways. It has to be boiled and then you drink something.
So you're not quite sure what it is that actually makes you feel better.
It's
relief from just not taking it.
Chungu.
But remember, malarial tablets as we knew them In the olden days.
The most bitter thing you could ever take.
It was, you would hope that it wouldn't touch your tongue as it was going down, right?
You didn't escape.
No.
Yeah.
You really couldn't. But I mean, I think a number of countries then jumped up after and said, hey, wait a minute, if this is what this looks like, we also have it. And it's been here. Studies have been done. We've seen that, a famous professor in Nigeria called Professor Olayemi actually found that he had done a study on this thing previously and found that it would cure a lot of ailments, having been taken. And every tribe has their own local name for it.
For the same one.
Interesting. For the same thing, yeah.
The question that would arise is, what exactly does it do? Does it boost your immunity? Does it attack the virus? And if it does, what exactly does it attack in the virus? You see? The all the drugs that we take do very specific things in our body. And with this, in this case, this is where now the investigation comes in. It'll be able to tell us, yes, people who take it have been known to get better, but this is what it actually does.
I think it was a good thing. And unfortunately, if you're going to throw a spanner in the works here, I think that, a lot of countries, no less in the West, didn't want the study to be done on this herb. They
don't want to hear about it. But they
didn't want to hear about it because they knew that
doing hydroxychloroquine.
Yes, but didn't want to hear about this because, hey, a solution out of Africa? Impossible.
Yeah, that's been the bush. So what organization is this that's conducting this research in Kenya?
It is IPR, Institute of Primate Research.
The one in Karen at Olulua Forest, right? The largest such institute in Africa. All right. So they're going to feed this thing to the monkeys.
Well, before it gets to monkeys, after monkeys, it's not. No. It's a good thing.
I know. He's come off primate research.
Yeah. After monkeys, now you get to human beings. Yes.
The further cousins.
Okay. It's 28-7. This is a situation amidst Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, we are giving away 1,000 shillings worth of Safaricom airtime. If you download the Standard e-Paper app by dialing *550*2#, you'll get to read the Standard newspaper as it is. We don't need any download of any app. You don't need to worry about data charges, no sign-up fees. But then tell us about that story that I read. A story that says 2 different courts have refused to grant a man a divorce from his wife of 13 years so that he could remarry. Instead, the Magistrates Court and the High Court are in agreement that the man should continue living with the woman that he accuses of being cold and distant. What page is this story, and what's the headline of that story? Good morning.
All right, let's look at what it looks like on the streets of Nairobi today. Wayakiwe is flowing quite smoothly. There's no traffic. Traffic is moving just, fantastically from Udhuri Junction all the way to the School of Agriculture, and that is not a problem. Jogo Road as well, moving very well at the moment. Outer Ring is clear at the moment too. In and outbound on Thika Road, fantastically for a Monday morning in COVID times. Not much traffic outbound. We might see that will change in a short while. On Mombasa Road, outbound as well, not much of an issue. It seems to be flowing very well this morning. It is a Monday, so things are likely to change in a very short while. But for those who came out early, they will definitely catch the worm. We'll look at other parts of the country in a bit and see what traffic looks like. But for now, you should enjoy Nairobi roads. We'll take a look at Mombasa and then go west into Kisumu and see how that looks. All right, Spice of MKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what you see. It could have the potential to go crazy, but let's warn each other and help each other out and keep it moving this Monday morning.
FM, Malindi.
Calls are coming in 0719-01600. People are just doing guesswork. Just download this thing and read the paper. Is it on page 4?
Spice up your life.
Is it on 5?
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Sorry. Dial star 550 star. See that.
Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Ready.
Yes, Professor.
You don't have to.
Professor? What's happening?
You don't have to wait for movies.
It's here.
These things happen
It's in the
here.
country.
You don't have to go far to look for this drama. I'm telling you, you shouldn't be bored. The headline is how rogue state officers and Chinese firm attempted to steal and sell COVID-19 PPE donations. It's a heist. Health officials risked their lives to treat coronavirus patients without personal protective equipment, a consignment of masks, isolation gowns, and surgical suits from China lay at JKIA for 2 months, and the cargo was only released on Saturday. Right. Now,
there you go.
a cabal is what is being called of Ministry of Health officials. Remember, their boss said, even here in this house, things are not right. We know the criminals. Kenya Revenue Authority officials and rogue businessmen from China tried stealing donated COVID-19 kits for Kenyan health workers. Investigations by the Standard have revealed an intricate scheme that involves possible collusion between Chinese businessmen, government officers, and other local operatives to steal medical emergency goods worth millions of shillings with the hope of selling the same products to hospitals and government at a huge profit. The groundwork for this particular attempted heist started just 3 weeks after Kenya announced the first COVID-19 case on March 13th. As the country struggled to understand the disease and adopt measures to contain its spread, a number of countries offered to donate key medical equipment. We asked this question at some point. All the donations.
Where are they?
Where are they? Where did they go?
We're hearing the Jack Ma Foundation, the Alibaba Foundation. They have donated, they have sent pictures of planes landing at JKIA.
Wow.
Hey, I hope you're reading that story. So,
Because I'm a
on April
already.
15th, Ambassador Sarah Serem of the Kenyan Embassy in China received a consignment of medical supplies for frontline workers. The embassy wrote to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as well as the Ministry of Health with details of received donations. The letter was signed by Edwin Limo on behalf of the ambassador. 15 days later, the donation arrived at the JKIA aboard a China Southern Airlines flight number CZ633. But as soon as the plane touched down, an individual whom investigations have identified as Festus Odhiambo, with no known affiliation to either the Ministry of Health or that of Foreign Affairs or any government body, walked into the JKIA cargo terminal. Odhiambo, who identified himself as an employee clearing and a forwarding company called Songhong Kenya Logistics Limited, was armed with a letter from another company, Fasomo Limited, that claimed ownership of the assorted medical equipment from China. The letter by a Mr. Dennis Manyasi, who's named as a manager at Fasomo, had appointed him as the authorized clearing agent for these goods.
Like a joke.
Those items were 6,000 pieces of N95 masks, 500 pieces of isolation gowns, 3,000 pieces of surgical masks, 500 pieces of surgical protective suits, 40 pieces of thermal thermometers, 85,000 pieces of normal masks. But there was a catch. Official documents read that the goods had a demurrage fee of 661,000 shillings. The processing officers at the time did not ask why a government-to-government donation needed to be cleared by a third party.
Actually, you know, I was listening quietly. Then I became a little demurrage charges. How?
That's the thing.
I mean, how?
It's a donation.
It's a donation.
Why would there be a demurrage charge?
Yes.
Kwanza 660,000 shillings.
How? Next, you're going to hear VAT.
But then, for Somo, they said, okay, you guys want us to pay 600? Okay, so first, we're going to pay 130,000 shillings towards the demurrage fee. At this time, the Union of Nurses and Medical Practitioners and Dentists Unions were up in arms, saying, oh, people are not being given the PPEs, oh, we're going on strike. So, a month later, after the first case, medical workers were still ill-equipped to deal with the virus. In the weeks that followed, dozens of nurses and doctors would contract this virus. So after they paid 130,000 shillings as deposit for the demurrage fees, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs sounded the alarm bell. The ministry had not received any official communication with regard to the arrival of the donations from China. It had been more than 2 weeks since the cargo left China by air. Now, this is the other joke now. What do you mean? So, you have been told, Nairobi, Sarah Serem, signing on behalf of Sarah Serem, Edwin Limo, here is a consignment that we've received. We are dispatching it aboard China Southern Airlines. China Southern comes straight to JKIA. But the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is not aware that that plane has landed. Okay? 2 weeks, they're like, wait.
There was something that was coming.
2 weeks.
That time, people are complaining. No, nurses are going on
They were
strike.
going on strike
Panyako
because
is
they were not
announcing a strike.
covered.
Doctors are saying, come on, PPEs for protection of our workers.
Where?
So heat is coming from other quarters. And that's when the Foreign Affairs is like, na ile kitu ilikuwa natumwa na Limo ilikuja. Call Limo.
Sorry?
Wait, that thing came a long time ago. Then you start finding out that there's some guys here who are trying to play games. Even the 661,000 shillings as demurrage fee, what is that?
Health CS Mutai Kagwe says, we are aware that there was something like that. And there is an ongoing investigation. I cannot talk about an ongoing investigation. These are thieves, and I can't speak for them. The law will take its course, and we are going to have them arrested. Convinced?
I think, let me just give you this story. I think this is an interesting one. City, would you mind?
Please carry on.
This Odhiambo guy is seriously resilient. Odhiambo says, I work with Songhong Limited and Fasomo Limited is our client. We were notified by a CFS to act on behalf of Fasomo, so we went to the CFS and collected the required documents, but the documents were missing some information, so we requested our officers in China to follow this on our behalf. The documents at the Nairobi CFS to Odhiambo's company only had a letter of instruction from their client Fasomo. It missed the one crucial document, the official waybill. The waybill is a document, of course, issued by the carrier giving details and instructions relating to the shipment of a consignment of goods. Typically, it will show the names of the consigner and the consignee, the point of origin of the consignment, its destination, and the route. Almost a week later, Odhiambo received the waybill that he had requested from China, and with this, his company started the clearance of the goods. However, there was a hitch. Similar shipping details had been received at the Ministry of Health, but there was a telling difference. Every single item on the waybill was the same in the document received by Odhiambo and that in possession of the Ministry of Health, except the shipper and the consignee details. The document that Odhiambo was presenting to customs officials at JKIA had the shipper as Haoyang Trading Limited and the consignee as Fasomo Limited, while the document in possession at Mafia House named the shipper as the Embassy of the Republic of Kenya and the consignee as Dr. Toro, the head of Global Health Security at the ministry. At what point does this Haoyang guy come into place and call some Mr. Odhiambo here who runs a company and is told, clear these goods for us on our behalf? Fasomo basically is just doing the clearing
Its
of...
job.
Yeah.
You know what is of interest? Yeah? The government does have an agency whose specific task is to clear government goods. Specifically. So, again, it is possible that the donors could have chosen a specific company to clear this good for them. That is possible. Yes. Not a problem there. But that even isn't the issue. Why did it take 2 weeks for this issue to be brought up?
Why did it take 2 weeks for somebody to
Because
even remember
someone
that
was aware.
something had been sent and everybody kept quiet about it?
Someone is aware of this.
And these were things which were urgently needed. Urgently.
And in fact, here is the issue, right? So the donor did not send the things to Kenya to be received in Kenya. The donor handed these things over to the Kenyan embassy
in China.
So it's a Kenyan embassy in China that is sending these things to Nairobi. So there's absolutely no point where the donor now is on who decides who's going to clear these things. as far as the donor is concerned,
we finished our
I
business.
gave these
is done.
things to the Kenyan embassy.
And it
And
has,
the Kenyan embassy sends
And the
it.
Kenyan embassy received. And the
as
Kenyan
soon
embassy,
as Kenyan embassy has received it in China,
That's
Kenya
it.
has received it.
Yeah.
It's done.
So they send it.
So now
they send
Kenya,
it.
whatever you
But the
choose to do with
Ministry
it
of
after
Foreign
that.
Affairs in Nairobi doesn't know.
the
Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Kenya, after 2 weeks, is when somebody said, "Hold on a minute, something was sent from China some 2 weeks ago. Hadn't we better start checking up on this thing?" And voila, lo and behold, somebody was trying to
It's not possible because
disappear PPEs.
it's not possible. If such a thing, with the importance, the magnitude of importance that is attached to it, there would have been communication indicating that those things have now been sent.
Of course, there was communication that was sent, City. But you see, in this case, the heist, this is where the heist now is played. All of this information then is, ignored. While other things are going on, nobody wants to really talk about it. Whether it has come, whether it has arrived, who then was given, authority, direction. Nobody wants to discuss
And
that
this
because
is-
other things are happening underground.
And it's very urgent. I mean, it's something that's very urgent.
It's needed.
We have received these things. Okay, we need them. So when are they coming? We need these
Dispatch,
things.
move.
On the 12th of May, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Macharia Kamau, announced at a press conference that his ministry had donated the selected PPEs to the Ministry of Health. However, crucially, key equipment such as N95 masks were missing from its list of donations. So when they said, okay, so we have donated this, and the other, N95 is not there. In that consignment, you had how many N95s again? I had told you. There were quite a number, were they? N95s were many. I'm going to... 6,000.
Yeah, 6,000 pieces.
6,000
of
N95
yeah.
masks. But as soon as he left the steps of his office buildings where the press conference was being held, Macharia wrote to the DCI requesting an urgent investigation into this China shipment.
This one. This just needs help. Now, remember Dr. Mercy Korir sat there and talked to us about, we asked about these PPEs and why was it somebody's bill so high? Because somebody would walk in with a PPE, take your temperature, take a test, whatever, discard that PPE and would have to now don another one when they came to do the evening test or whatever. So by the time you finished in hospital and you're being discharged, possibly you could have used 3, 4, 5 PPEs. At that time, they were being charged at about 8,000, 9,000 shillings. So that is where now you can imagine the prices could have come down if this high number that had been donated were actually sent where they should have been sent to. But unfortunately, this didn't happen because, yes, there's...
Why even get disposable PPEs? Why?
In the first place.
Let's even assume that we've been donated for disposable PPEs. They've
Didn't
come
buy them.
sour. All right? But then they're not even arriving at the hospital.
They're not being distributed. What they wanted to do was to take all of this equipment
Sell.
and resell it to facilities and make a huge profit. That's what they wanted to do for things that were
They were actually going
donated.
to resell it to the government.
Yeah.
For things that were
Yes.
donated, government officials would then take them and then sell them to the same government.
They were going to sell it to the government.
Because this is what was happening. And then you sit in a board meeting and the person who you're asking these questions probably is the one whose company has sold these things back to you that
This
morning for
sold
which you've
story.
signed.
So when the government keeps telling us, we're having supply challenges, this is it. Procurement and supply chain challenges. It's because of such.
Remember, we asked the question regarding the test kits.
Yep.
Same story. And then we
Yep.
asked, there was some 40 billion donated. Why wasn't some of it used to upgrade the capacity of Kemri to actually produce these test kits?
Yep.
Of course, we were talking to ourselves. Yes. And even the PPEs that have been used, say, at the Center for Virology Research in Kemri, those are PPEs that they've had. It's not as though
It's
they
not
were
that they
given.
came because of COVID. Yeah.
Maybe in the recent past, they got some. But they were not using PPEs that the government had given them. They're PPEs that they've had for some time.
So now investigations are being done. Guess what? This story is finished.
That's it.
This one is done. All
10
these
minutes to
investigations
7.
being done.
This is a situation with Kenya's biggest conversation. 0719-012-600 to win 1,000 shillings worth of free airtime just by dialing *550*2# and you read the standard newspaper format. So once again, just dial star
Classic
550
soul,
star two
R&B,
hash,
smooth
and
jazz,
you get to read
neo
this
soul,
paper
and nostalgic
on,
ballads.
You don't
You're
need
listening to
no
Spice
data charges,
FM.
You don't need to download any app. You don't need to sign up for anything. Once you just do star 550 star two hash, only condition is when you access to full in a digital format. And we're saying that we're going to give you 1,000 shillings worth of airtime this morning if you just call us and tell us on which page and what's the headline of this story. 2 different courts have refused to grant a man a divorce from his wife of 13 years so he could remarry. Instead, the Magistrates Court and the High Court are in agreement that this man should continue living with the woman he accuses of being cold and distant. This story is somewhere between the first page and page 5. What page is that story? What's on page 3? That's interesting. Court ends battle for wealth between Mudama and his ex-wife. Judge rules that woman had no credible reason to wait for 4 years before filing an appeal. A court has saved a politician with a declaration that his estranged spouse should not be allowed to extend a 23-year-old legal battle over his multi-million shilling estate. The Court of Appeal said the proceedings between former Machako Senator Johnson Mudama and his ex-wife Joyce Nzisa that started in 1992 and concluded in 2015 cannot continue hanging over Mudama's head like the sword of Damocles. Litigation must come to an end at some point. This is according to Justice Wajiro Karanja, who was dismissing the application by Nzisa to be allowed to lodge an appeal out of the time against a High Court decision that locked her out of the estate. Long-running family dispute here.
It's going to take a while to get rid of this one.
Oh, yeah. This one? It's a long-running dispute. This one being the dispute of the wife.
The dispute.
You always wonder.
That would have been a different sentiment
These
depending on who was
things
saying
that involve couples. The real issue never really gets to the headlines. What seems to be prominent or preeminent is the discussion around wealth.
Yeah. Who ends up with what?
Yes. Do you hear cases of people who don't have any wealth to speak of being prolonged in the media like this one? No.
No. Relevant, I'm telling
you. Do they
you.
even get the paper?
No. Relevant, I'm telling you. The things you pay attention to, of course, are often dependent on how much clout individuals and even countries pull.
The matter of health workers going on strike in Kisumu County, 1 week now, they're still on strike.
They're still on strike.
And this year alone, they've been on strike 4 times. And the governor has fingers pointing at him, saying he should actually keep the promises he made to the health workers. Yes.
And you're always making this like a teeth-pulling exercise, and it shouldn't be. I think there's very little that needs to be done in terms of conversation and get this thing sorted out.
Yeah.
And I think he's just not willing to speak, and it's as the eyes would see it, it's very simple, this one, that he needs to sort out. If it needs to be something you need to have it done in installments, do it in installments. But get this thing out of the way. It's ridiculous now, I think.
By the way,
we're just in the middle of the year and they've gone on strike 4 times. That means every 1.5 months they're going on strike.
They haven't been at work.
So, really, what are we talking about?
Yeah. They just haven't been at work.
One of the reasons that the health workers used is they don't have PPEs.
Well, we know where they are now, don't we?
Yeah. We are told where they are.
Okay. Yeah. Grim, isn't it, CT? All right. The union has set fresh conditions for new school term to start. Fearing for safety of its members, the KNUT wants TSC to roll out induction for teachers on mitigation, safety and effects of corona. Teachers have given their employer a range of measures that should be taken ahead of the reopening of schools. Top on the list is the call to the TSC to quash the delocalization policy that transferred teachers to work away from their homes. The Kenya National Union of Teachers now says in the wake of the coronavirus, teachers should be allowed to work within their locality to minimize traveling that could lead to the spread of COVID-19. It was in a 7-page letter to CEO Nancy Macharia dated the 12th of June. The union says to avoid the spread of the virus from hotspot counties, teachers should be posted to work in their localities. And this is the thrust of this communication. And according to the KNUT boss, the commission needs to start preparing teachers emotionally, psychologically, and professionally on how to deal with COVID-19 and possible stigma associated with a pandemic. And their new demands are: 1, an analysis by KNUT wants social distancing to result into splitting of existing classes. This means 400,000 additional teachers will be required. The union wants teachers to work within their localities to minimize movements. It says staff rooms should be configured to new COVID-19 requirements. The union also wants TSC to take special care of elderly staff and those with pre-existing conditions that put them at high risk of contacting the virus. The union is urging the TSC to institute induction for teachers on COVID-19 mitigation and effects. And finally, it wants teachers employed by school boards and intern teachers to be included in the government's payroll. So according to them, these are the recommendations that they're giving out before schools open. However, they're going to do it because there's a lot of talk that come September, it'll just be candidates who are going back to school. We don't know what that is going to be yet.
Yeah.
But even if that is the case, there's certain things that KNUT is saying need to be done before teaching and schooling resumes.
The good thing is that there's this conversation, whether TSC, the KNUT is sitting at the table, whether it's writing to its employer, it's okay. There's conversation that's happening. Remember also, I think, is it on The Nation, CT, where the CS Magoha is talking about how they're going to look at the reopening of schools as well.
Yes, and he's talking about staggering in, should we say, overcrowded schools.
Yeah.
I laugh because it is being mentioned as though this is something new. With the advent of free education, schools immediately became overcrowded. Immediately. So this is something that should have been foreseen.
Yep.
Because there are many young people who wanted to learn but couldn't. So the moment it was possible, they went to school. Yes. Now, when people are talking, or when those charged with ensuring that our youngsters receive the education that is their right, these are things that you hope would have been taken into consideration. Because it's a planning issue here.
I think just like everything else with this COVID-19 and exposing how the government works and how it operates, what Sosion is raising, those are very valid points. If you're talking about minimizing movement, let's start with the teachers. Teachers are no longer working in their localities. That means you're guaranteed, as soon as you open schools, teachers will be moving from one county to the next. Higher. You're also talking about reorganizing classrooms and staff rooms. That is an obvious thing. What kind of conversation are we having on how are we going to reorganize these classrooms? How are we going to reorganize the staff rooms so that teachers are all observing physical distancing in class and in staff room?
And then, look, it begs the hiring of new teachers, and looking at 400,000 teachers would need to be hired if then you're going to break apart what you have as class population already.
Yep.
If they're saying it's too many to have 30 students in class, in some cases where you have 60, 70 students in class, and you need to separate them to now split them to 25.
In many cases.
And then, so you're going to have extra classes. Are the facilities available? Number one. Number two, you don't have enough teachers.
Yeah.
You're going to have to hire 400,000 more teachers. What has been allocated to education, we know that they got a bump with the recently read budget. However, this was not taken into consideration.
Let's look at this in the next hour as well as we get to the next hour. CT, today's proverb again, dog and the tail.
Yes.
This time not chasing.
No. Do not step on a dog's tail and he will not bite you. If you don't step on his tail, it won't bite you.
There'll be peace.
Well, other people have similar sayings about a thorn, saying if you don't step on a thorn, it can't possibly prick you. Yes. So this one is a little more, should we say, graphic.
It's like the one for Michuki with the snake.
If you rattle a snake,
prepare to be bitten. Prepare to be bitten. If you don't rattle it, you're safe. You don't step on a dog's tail, you are safe. Good morning. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. The conversation continues on Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And now it's coming up to 7 o'clock. Remember, in the next hour, we look at other big stories that are happening in the country. And at 8 o'clock, we'll be speaking with the Tanzanian opposition leader. This is an MP who was shot how many times again?
16.
16 times. Ended up in Nairobi, ended up abroad, and now we'll be speaking to him. There's an election coming up in Tanzania later this year. So we want to see what's the lay of the land. Good morning.
Okay. a look at other parts of the country today and what's going on. Not much going on in Kisumu this morning. The city seems to be clear. Nobody out and about as yet. And the few that are not having any issues with traffic. All right, skip on to this other side in Mombasa. It's looking pretty good into the city out, coming in from Mariakani and inwards. Not much of an issue either. Traffic is looking good. All right, let's come back into Nairobi. Thika Road is clear, but you want to drive carefully. Don't overspeed because the roads are slippery. It is showering in some parts of the city. Wet conditions will have you moving a little bit slower. It's Hafa Valley. Waiyaki Way, traffic is actually moving very well all the way from Uthiru into Westlands roundabout. Right now we don't have much of a problem. We're likely to see a change at about 7:30. Getting into the CBD from Jogo Road right to the City Stadium roundabout, it's moving slowly, but it's moving all the same. Mombasa Road is likely to be clogged up in a short while now, right around Cabanas. We'll give you that information as we get it. So let us know also what you see, and so we can help people move a little faster, or at least a little more efficiently this morning. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what you see this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have
2.5 minutes
C.T.
after 7.
Muga,
The Situation
researcher,
Room broadcasts on Spice FM, 94.4 Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri, Malindi, 97.7, and www.spicefm.co.ke, Spice FM KE on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. To join this conversation, you dial 0719 012 600. That is 0719 012 600. Continuing with this education conversation. And, well, yes, so KNUT has written a 7-page letter to the Teacher Service Commission saying these are the things that we would like you guys to do. We would like you to consider as we talk about reopening of schools. Let's talk about the plight of teachers. And that's right. And that's what the union actually does. It looks at the plight of its members. So saying, in order for us to observe physical distancing, we need to reconfigure the staff rooms. We need to reconfigure the classrooms. We have to think about employing teachers who are employed by BOMs. Now, that is something that is going to be quite dicey, isn't it?
It is dicey because the school fees is what helps pay for these people's salaries. So if there's no school and there's no fees,
there's no salary, there's no man.
It's not complicated. Straightforward.
Let me ask you.
Hakuna kazi ka nyumbani.
So we're looking at, as is the case with many, many schools, we're looking at 60 to 70 students in a class. No? Yes? Yeah? That's what we're looking at.
Yep.
And according to these recommendations that have come from NUT, is that they're saying, look, according to COVID guidelines, and this is coming from Sosion himself in the report, in the letter that they sent to the TSC, is that with COVID times, we should be looking at having
15 learners.
Yeah, under the COVID era, we should have a maximum of 15 learners, and said that the existing staff formula be reviewed to reflect the new reality. 15. So just take one class.
15.
So there's class 5A, B, and C in most cases. Okay, let's just remove C. There's class 5 and class 5A. B, all right? And each has 60. Okay, let's say 50. Okay, let's say 45. All right?
For ease of math.
Yes.
So let's you're dividing by 3.
Let's say 45.
Okay.
Right?
Every class breeds 3.
Every class now gives birth to 3 classes. That means for each of those 3 classes, you need
a teacher.
So, and then not just that, but you need space. And we're assuming that these schools are not going to start constructing.
You can't construct now and the classroom will be ready.
By September. So not only
Not
do you
just
need...
by September, they won't.
Okay.
No, where are they going to get the money from?
Yeah, exactly. And then to plan all this and put it into place, that's
They
the
won't.
last of their their intentions.
You
That's the
cannot
last
even
of
have
their
Harambe
priorities
classrooms.
right
People
now.
don't have
They
money.
won't.
Right?
This is not going to happen. Okay? And we're looking at streams. Uncle Bio, what did you say? Board of
BOM.
BOM.
Board of Management, right?
Abi? Right. When things like this are going to happen in an institution of learning, a school, right? This is something that is thought out. The process is taken into consideration. People are consulted back and forth, and then a plan is come up with. And you say, okay, in order for us, we have more and more admissions this year. So now class 5, A and B, we've had so many admissions into this new class, then we need to introduce another stream, right? Mostly, maybe what you would do is begin to construct if you needed to, or you would have a temporary class, or you would now take something and turn it into a makeshift classroom, right? Am I off?
The way it works is this. Huh? There's money that government sometimes gives you for construction.
Okay.
They do. Or for renovation. Okay? But what you're suggesting requires the school to organize a harambe so that you can have money to build what you want to build.
Build the wing that
Yes.
we now call
Yes.
city
And
Muga
that
wing.
harambe isn't that one harambe.
Many.
Very many.
You start with the MCA coming, and then
Then you look for a guest of honor whom you're going to invite,
Yes.
and then etc. etc. It's a long, tedious process.
The local
So
thug
in
will
the
come.
meantime, if it isn't raining, children learn under a tree.
Yep.
Okay.
You move a class to,
Tree.
that is, if you have a tree.
So in this case,
Others use the shade of these are the classrooms. So the wall, you sit on that side because the sun is on this way, so it's
You go on the other side.
giving you a shade, so you sit on that.
And you
and
learn.
then come
And you
afternoon,
learn.
you move to the other side.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now we're talking about COVID times.
Hey.
And the assumption is that everybody is going to be within 4 walls under a roof, all right? And that we're saying that even within this area, so we can't move anybody outside. We're not going to move an entire stream of 45. Why am I going into this detail? Because that's just it. It's details that are necessary to look at. And unfortunately, when you make a plan like this, it's absolutely necessary to look at each and every single detail. Sosion and Nut are completely right when this is as far as this is concerned, because we're dealing in unprecedented times, right? So it unearths a lot more. We knew, like I said, something new that they're dealing with. The issue of overcrowding in schools is something that they've been talking about forever.
I think logistically, this is a nightmare. So let's just
Already it's a nightmare. We haven't even thought about it.
Let's talk about the reality of things. This will not happen. So what is the next best thing?
School is
we
not going
are
to open
not
in
going to
September.
have 15 people. Even next year, COVID is still going to be here with us. We are not going to have students being reduced to 15 per class.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
This is why Magoha, it is reported, was talking about staggering
them.
learning.
So you come in the morning and then the next guy is coming in the afternoon
That thing is also not going to work.
because you still have a syllabus to cover.
Yes,
And
you
have
need
subjects.
a certain number of lessons in a day for
In
this
a
thing
day.
to work.
It's going to be chaotic, man.
It's already chaotic just thinking about it, and nothing has happened yet. Right? Just to think about it in your mind as how it works. Just take one class 1, and you say, all right, we're going to have half the students in the morning. How much can you really cover mathematics, English, or whatever?
This is to happen.
Between 8 o'clock and
I
1
actually
o'clock.
did that when I was in standard 1 and 2, I think. We went in the morning.
Some
no,
people
no.
went in the morning,
well,
the older ones
yes.
went in the afternoon.
But remember, this is one class. It's still standard
Yeah.
1.
Yep.
We're not going to standard
Yep.
2 and 3 coming in the afternoon.
Yep.
It's still standard 1 in the morning from 8 to 1. And then it is still standard 1 in the afternoon from 2 to 6 or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
So it's still one class that has to be sorted out in a day. We're not saying that the younger ones come in the morning and then they're taught across board and then the older ones come in the afternoon. It's still the same class that will be
Yes.
taught from morning till evening.
Yep.
That's why it's a logistical nightmare. That's why it's a problem.
Yep.
Because are you going to be able to cover everything between 8 and 1?
For the lower classes, it's possible for you to actually assume that you can cram things up. The upper primary, it becomes a challenge.
Yeah.
It becomes a challenge because you cannot really say that, let's divide up. Standard 6s come in the morning and then you go home so that the other guys can come in the afternoon to occupy the same classroom. You cannot do that. So that is not going to work. What is the next best solution? And well, apart from hearing, and I think this is where now also it would have been important for that task force report to be made completely public. What did they discuss? The Committee on Resumption of Schools. What else did they discuss? Apart from talking about, well, we are proposing that schools start reopening from September, what else? Did they factor in all this?
Yeah, there's got to be a lot more than just the dates.
What happens with the teachers? And then before September, what Sosion is calling here an induction of teachers. Teachers need to go to school a bit earlier so that they can be told, this is how we are going to operate going forward. So are we going to be doing thermal screening of every pupil as they walk into school? Are we going to have to set up some areas where if a child develops, let's say, a high fever, where are you going to take them? Some sanatorium. Do you have those kind of facilities? Then how do you, as teachers, you need to know what you're dealing with as teachers. So teachers also need to be taken through some training. This is COVID. This is all we do. This is how we deal with it. These are the SOPs, the standard operating procedures.
And
in
the
the event this happens, you do this. Yeah. And when is it going to be conducted? So we're already talking about, we start maybe reopening schools in September. There's a lot that
goes into this. There's quite a lot that goes into it. And actually, thinking about
and
it
even
from
that
a
issue of teachers then moving. The same way we're talking about, secondary school students, many of them will be moving from one county to another.
Right.
It's the same thing that's going to happen with teachers. Teachers are going to be moving from one county to another. All right. So are you working out their transport modalities? Are you talking about when they get there, they go into some sort of quarantine before school starts?
These are issues. These are issues, honestly, really to be thought about, and it's headache inducing to think about it. But it's necessary to be, because like you said, COVID is not going to, it's still be here next year, whether it's going to be in limited spread or however, it's still going to be something that has to be taken into consideration when it comes to everything in the country, not just education. But this is something that education and the starting of the school year is the sector that sees the highest movement of population in this country every time the school year opens or closes. Movement of persons, this is the highest, the education sector. All of these things to be taken into consideration. How is it really going to be done?
If you consider the challenge that China had, COVID outbreak unfortunately coincided with the Chinese New Year. Now, that is the time of the year when there's more movement than you can imagine.
Yeah.
So what do they do? Lockdown.
Shut it down.
Yeah. Kill the movement.
What is the hurry? Why must you open in September? Why is September the magic month? This thing is far, far more serious.
The beginning of the third term.
Yes. Why September? Why not push it further? I mean, what I'm saying is, stop thinking the way. Think not even outside the box. Think laterally. This is a problem that isn't going to be solved tomorrow or even in September. Let's say a cure is found before September. Even if you find a cure, you think COVID will stop existing.
It's still going to be there.
Not.
Yes.
And even if it's found, do you think it will come to Kenya immediately? I mean, if you're not able to access PPEs.
Or test kits.
Or test kits. Are we going to access this vaccine when it comes out?
So, the reality is, it isn't a question of thinking about when to move it, how to decongest. Rethink the entire structure of our educational system and how we go about it. So that when you make a move, it's comprehensive. This ragtag, bit by bit movement that they like moving, it sometimes causes more problems than it provides solutions.
It does.
It does.
It does.
And unfortunately, you have a lot of people speculating and coming up with their own, and is this the way it's going to be? And this is what I think, by virtue of the fact that you've not given enough information. And also, here's a place where to say, we actually don't know. We are thinking about it and want to see what we're going to be able to do. But then you put a date there and then everybody says, okay. So then what happens? Without being given the right information or any kind of information then to go by.
Stigma notwithstanding, let me draw a parallel for you. You have curfew laws. If you are caught in the street breaking curfew laws, you are taken to jail. The moment you're taken to jail, it is then argued that there is a likelihood that you could have contracted COVID. So they take you into
quarantine.
14 days minimum.
Yes.
The moment 14 days are up, you are then told that there's this amount of money that you owe the government because
They fed you.
they fed you. They picked you up from the streets. You tell them, I don't have the 14,000. They tell you, no. But we fed you. You said, but you picked me up from the street. I've not been working. Where exactly do you expect me to find the 14,000? Then they figure, okay, we're going to keep you here longer until you find the money. Another 14 days.
Keep feeding you.
Yes. Now, in the process, there is a likelihood you might come across people who have COVID. So they say, no. Because one person has been found in this place who has COVID, then you now, we take you and take you to isolation. Huh? Now, this is what happens when something is not really thought through adequately. The police are just doing their job. You have curfew, you break curfew, they arrest
We
you.
arrest you. Period.
There's nothing complicated. Those people who man the isolation and quarantine, they're also just doing their jobs. But it is policy that wasn't thought through. Now you're saying you want to do decongest classes, you want to move God knows what. No. Please think about this thing comprehensively. This ragtag, please don't be in a hurry. This ragtag movement of Sosyon says this, Magoha says this, God knows who says it.
Committee.
It will cause us more problems than we currently have.
This is astonishing just to think about it. 16 minutes after 7. Let's take a look at the weather and then we continue this conversation. Also, let's ask ourselves, are people going to be able to afford school fees even when schools reopen? Hiya. 17 minutes after 7. Good morning.
Mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 14, high chance of rain later with highs of 21. In Nyeri, we'll see highs of 20 with thunderstorms in the afternoon. And in Nakuru, light rain showers already coming down at 15 degrees, and this will transform to thunderstorms later, highs of 22. In Eldoret, it's also raining this morning at 13 degrees. Thunderstorms expected to come later with highs of 20. Kisumu at 19 degrees is partly cloudy. It'll be an afternoon of rain with highs of 26. Kakamega at 16 degrees also will experience thunderstorms later with highs of 24. And in Malindi at 27 degrees is mostly cloudy. It'll be a cloudy day and chances of showers later with highs of 29. In Mombasa, 25 degrees and mostly cloudy. Highs of 28 today. Kampala sees partly cloudy, mostly cloudy conditions this Monday morning at 19 degrees, 24 degrees the high with showers later on. Taking a look then into Dar es Salaam, where it's clear skies at 22 degrees, highs of 31 today. All right, further down south in Johannesburg, clear skies at 2 degrees. We'll see highs of 14 and lows of 1 this morning. And finally, for now in Lagos, thunderstorms are still continuing in the commercial capital. Highs of 31 and lows of 24, currently standing at 25.
All right, the conversation continues at 19 minutes after 7. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, you can get the standard e-paper without needing to download it, to download any app, just by dialing star 550 star 2 hash from your Safaricom mobile. And for just 20 shillings, you'll read the standard newspaper, page to page, end to end. The standard newspaper as it is appears in a digital format, by dialing star 550 star 2 hash. Okay. So we are talking about the schools and the resumption of learning. The government has already said it's working on a resumption of learning in September. Education CS Magoha says that he has embarked on a tour of schools across the country to ascertain their levels of preparedness before learning resumes. The ministry, he says, is focusing on the availability of ample learning space water, and other stipulated public health requirements. We are doing everything possible to make sure that schools reopen, but this calls for concerted efforts from other players in the education sector, including the parents. But Magoha says consultations would be conducted before a decision is made on the examinations calendar. Now, remember, Magoha had appointed a committee which was led by the head of the Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development, and included the Private Schools Association. It included the faith-based schools associations. It also included the Ministry of Health, and Ministry of Education officials, and they came up with recommendations which they handed over to the CS. And we're saying, so what we heard immediately from those recommendations is they started talking about the possibility of reopening the schools in September. And this is what the CS is talking about. But then, like we're hearing from Sosion and other quarters as well, is there are very many other things to take into consideration. Movement of teachers and students. You're talking about decongesting the classes. The words that are being used, globally is de-densify. To de-densify the classrooms, de-densify the staff rooms, and all those things. Let's talk to somebody who sat in that committee. He is the CEO of the Kenya Private Schools Association, our friend Peter Ndoro. Peter, good morning.
Good morning to you, Latif.
Good to hear from you again, and karibu sana to the Situation Room.
Asante.
Good morning, Peter.
Peter, you had your work cut out when you sat in that committee that advised the CS on the modalities of reopening the schools. And,
yes.
and your committee handed over a report to the CS. Now, we know that among the recommendations was to start thinking of reopening in September. We don't know the other recommendations. Now, what we're discussing this morning is what else needs to happen as we talk about reopening schools. A number of things, like what you're talking about, decongesting classrooms. We're talking about training of teachers on COVID-19. We are talking about very many other things, including ensuring that there is a sanitation and observance of physical distancing by the teachers and the students. All those measures, did you factor in all that in your report?
No. I was a member of that committee, that is true.
Yep.
But the responsibility of releasing that report actually lies with the Cabinet Secretary for Education. So until the Cabinet Secretary releases the report,
yep,
I cannot be able to comfortably discuss what was in that report.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, when we start in that committee, one of the things that was agreed is that the children will only go back to school when, as a country, we are sure that we can be able to guarantee their health and safety when they go to school, when they are in school, and when they come back from school. The people they meet within the community, they should be safe. That is what we agree.
Okay.
Yes.
And so does September then come in as a possible timeline?
Now, let me leave that to the Cabinet Secretary. I cannot be able to discuss that at the moment because the report was actually supposed to be a document advisory to the Cabinet Secretary.
Yep.
So whatever the Cabinet Secretary does with that advice, that is for him because it is his responsibility, not ours. Ours was there to advise him, and we did advise him.
Okay, let's then stick to what I mean. You also received a lot of advice from members of the public. You asked people to come in and present to you. When people were coming to present and the kind of conversations that you were having there, was there consideration or was there, did you guys think of a need, for example, to train teachers ahead of the reopening?
One of the things, Latif, that we must appreciate as a country is that when children go back to school or when the schools eventually reopen, we'll have new normal. We'll have new way of doing things. We'll have to make sure that we build the capacities of the people who are responsible in handling children to understand how they are going to handle children in terms of social distancing, in terms of hand washing, in terms of masking, in terms of monitoring. So it goes without saying that every other person who will be handling children, not just teachers in school or the members of staff in school, but even parents at home will have to be capacity built in terms of what needs to be done in terms of managing COVID-19.
Ideally, how long should that take before you talk about reopening?
It depends, because that will be done at several levels. It will be done at the national, county, sub-county, and all that. So it all depends on how we put in place the structures. If you want to do it in 1 week, it can be done. If you want to do it in 2 weeks, it can still be done. If you want to do it in a month, it can be done. So it's just about the plans that you put in place to be able to run that capacity building. So it all depends on what the government would want to do. But that is something that can be done depending on the resources that the government has and the time that they think they need to have to do that training. So it can be done.
All right, Peter, we keep talking about this new normal. New normal is dictated by the things around us. And so the new normal, we arrive at that because of things that have been brought to our plate. Now, obviously, if we just talk about social distancing alone, there are certain things that need to be put in place. If we're talking about 1.5 meters in terms of distance between students, whereby we have crowded situations in classes with the way education is in the country. These things taken into consideration, it is then obvious that the new normal would dictate that there will be less in terms of number of students in a classroom. Would these things be taken into consideration if indeed schools would open in September?
One of the things that we can't be able to negotiate with is negotiate with the virus. And with COVID-19, one of the most effective ways that we have been told by the health experts, both local and international, is that we must be able to maintain some level of social distancing in all spaces that we have. So in school, we'll have to maintain social distance.
All right. Now, Peter, before you go on, if we've already said that we need to maintain social distancing in classes, with the way things are now, let's assume there was no COVID, right? We already have a state of overcrowding in classes. If we look at best, if we look at the best scenario, 20 students in a class, and we're saying that it needs to be less than that, do you see that we have capacity? Are we able then to reduce the number of students that there are in classes? And if that then needs to be done, increase the number of teachers to take care of those additional classes if they come about?
Let me talk about the private schools, because that is where I know best. I know very well that it will be a challenge for private schools to be able to maintain social distancing. But we are going to creatively look at ways of how to accommodate social distancing. Because we have spaces that should be able to ordinarily accommodate, can be able to accommodate learners. We're going to be creative in terms of using the spaces available to us to be able to make sure that we have 1.5 or 1.5 meter distance. So we should be able to do that for us in the private sector, because we want to expose the children who come to our institutions to COVID-19 because we failed to observe social distancing. So for us in the private schools, we have started engaging our members and trying to think of ways that can be done. Because we are looking at, ordinarily we have always taught in the classroom at a certain time.
Yep.
But now we have to consider looking at using the laboratories, using our computer rooms, using our halls, to call it the dining hall. We can creatively even take lessons outside, right? So we want to make sure that we create an environment that respects issues of social distancing within the private sector environment. It might demand that teachers have more extra work, because they have to split their time between, if they were probably handling a class of 40, they may be required to handle a class of 30, so the other 10 will need another extra teacher, something like that. So, but for us in the private sector, we are prepared. We are looking at how best we can be able to organize our teaching and learning to accommodate that particular demand of social distancing.
From speaking to your membership, what is the average number of students in a class?
For us, the average number in a class is about 35. But we still have private schools that have around 45.
Yep.
There are others with 15 per class, depending on their class sizes. But and on average, what we have in private schools is let's say between 30 and 35.
Again, from the conversations that you're having with your members, what is it going to take for observance of social distancing? Is it a reduction from that 35 to how many per class?
Because
it depends on the size of the classroom.
That is actually dependent on the size of the classroom. Yeah, it is not dependent on, because if, for example, you are going to use a dining hall, which probably can accommodate with social can accommodate 100, it means you have 3 classes. If it is class 6, it can be collapsed into 2 or something like that, so that you are able to accommodate social distancing. It's just about creatively, what is it that we can do with the space that we have to accommodate social distancing? It doesn't mean, we have the regular class sizes of 7 by 8 meters, right?
Yeah.
So if we are using that particular classroom, then we have to reorganize and find out how many learners can it accommodate. But if we are creatively using the spaces that is available to us, then of course, if you had a class that was accommodating 15 and you use a particular hall, call it the dining hall or the school main hall, then it means the classes that you had, probably 3 of them can be collapsed into 1. So what we are saying is that we want to use the spaces that we have creatively to provide social distancing.
Did you discuss this at the committee? I mean, because that's what you are representing. You're representing the Private Schools Association in this committee that had been appointed by the CS to advise on the reopening. And when you're having these conversations within the meetings of the committee, were you looking at all this and considering them as what will inform the reopening of schools and how the new normal, as you call it, is going to be like?
Let me talk about private schools. Let me talk about the committee, because the committee, the chairperson or the spokesperson of the committee and the cabinet secretary was the owner of that report. So he's the one who released that. But for me, I'm in charge of the private sector, and we are discussing within the private sector space. And this is what we have been discussing within the Private Schools Association.
I hear that. I was just saying that, as a representative of the Private Schools Association who would like to lobby on behalf of your membership to the government, what is it that the Private Schools Association is lobbying the government to do?
One of the things that the private sector is lobbying at this point in time is for them to be considered as institutions that have been most affected by COVID-19. Because you realize that private schools do not get any support from any other quarter other than from the fees paid for by parents. And therefore, we are asking the government to consider private schools for a stimulus package. Because with COVID-19 management, private schools will be required to put up infrastructure that will be able to accommodate the new normal. For example, we need to put up extra facilities for water so that children are able to access water for washing hands all the time. Private schools will need to creatively think of how they can use the open spaces for learning, for example. That will require a bit of investment. We may be required to organize our dormitory facilities, and that will require a bit of investment. We may be required to bring on board extra teachers because of COVID-19. That will require some level of investment. So what we are asking the government to do is to consider private schools for a stimulus package so that they can be able to maintain what they had before COVID-19.
Okay, so all of these things taken into consideration, I mean, clearly, coming from private schools, let's not even talk then about what would be needed at public schools. So if you're just looking at private schools now and all of these things that you're saying to be considered for, because they become necessities as opposed to luxuries, right? Can this really be done by September? I know you said that if the government wants to, they could do it in a week. If they want to, they can do it in a month. If they want to, they can do it in more. September is around the corner. Do you think all of this will be done in that time?
For us, the private schools, it can be done, yes. Because I told you, it is just about how do you want to do it. Because it is possible. Whatever we have to do is possible within the time frame that we have.
If what happens, if what happens, because this depends on factors.
For example, the private schools. If we assess and find that we need some extra water storage facilities, if you have the resources, you just buy the tank, right? If you don't have the resources, you go to the bank and apply for a bank loan to buy the water storage facilities. You know, so it all depends on what is available, what is there. Yes, because it is a matter of, it is not that whatever we need is not there. It is actually there. It is just about how we apply them.
It's being creative about it, huh?
Exactly.
You mentioned dormitories, which is something that we had not actually even looked at. So what creative way would you have of de-densifying your dormitories?
Now, you know, when you look at our dormitories, you know, one of the ways that you need to look at is that in a school, we have other spaces that may not be used as dormitories at this point in time. But you need to rework it in terms of partitioning it and things like that, because we have those halls that we just have those halls that serve as dormitories. But if you just use it as a hall, it may accommodate less because of social distancing. But if you partition it and put cubes, probably using other facilities like now will not be, we will need probably to use other halls. You need to partition and do that. It will take a shorter period to do that. But for those schools that will need to construct dormitories, then you'll have to look at how do they put things like prefabricated facilities, which will take probably a shorter period of time. So it all depends on what do we have at this point in time, what can we access, which support can we get. So it is easy to do that within the time frame that we have.
Peter Ndoro, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning.
Asante sana.
Peter is the Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Private Schools Association. Have a good day, Peter.
Thank you very much, Douglas. Thank you.
This conversation continues on 0719 012 23 minutes to 8 o'clock. Let's take a look at traffic, and the conversation continues. Good morning.
All right, stuck in traffic at Muthaiga Square on Thika Road this morning. It actually has then officially become quite the mess. Joining the superhighway, trying to get into the CBD is going to cause a little bit of a challenge this morning as traffic has already started. It goes all the way as far back as Safari Park Hotel, snaking slowly into the city centre. Mombasa Road also, it is quite the traffic stretch all the way to Westlands. Mombasa Road to Westlands. How is that for a Monday morning, guys? Okpari, as they would say. Okay, those are two of the places where we see that are quite stuck this morning, and it's going to be that way for some time. It's typical Monday morning. Anything out of the ordinary, do let us know. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Let us see what you see so that we can spread the information as best we can.
So the CS for Education says they're working on resumption of schools in September. Many factors to consider. Maybe a little bit staggered reopening. Maybe just the candidates who will go back to school. Maybe looking at the hours. Some go in the morning, some go in the evening. All those things. Also, the TSC has received some memoranda from the Kenya National Union of Teachers, which is calling for many things to be considered, including training the teachers on how to deal with COVID-19, including looking at the teachers who are elderly and those who may have other pre-existing conditions and what kind of measures can be put in place to protect them. Very many other things. And we've just heard from the CEO of the Kenya Private Schools Association that they, private schools, want a stimulus package.
Who doesn't?
Yep, to recover from this, because I mean, private schools since March, This whole time they have not had an income. Their only income comes from the parents of that school. Now, government schools, however, public schools, they receive a lot of support from the government. The government has received a lot of support from well-wishers, including the World Bank and others. And there's a gentleman who went onto Facebook over the weekend and said, you know what, the government has received so much. The government academic fees for the next term or semester should be suspended. It has received enough donations and can afford to ease the burden to the parents who are struggling due to the COVID-19 financial crisis. This gentleman is called Michael Graham Katana. And Michael is joining us on the line now. Michael, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
So you're talking about basically saying reopen schools and don't ask us for a dime.
Exactly that.
Why?
Yeah, because as you said earlier on the weekend, I posted a post on Facebook saying that the government should suspend all next term and semester academic fees, simply because we all know that the government has received billions from Europe and all other organizations around the world. So if they can afford to react so fast in all these other matters, what about this parent? Who's helping this parent? Who's supporting this parent? Yes, we've discussed about schools organizing themselves, dormitories, schedules, blah, blah, blah. Who's organizing for the parent?
So the parent also wants a stimulus.
Yeah, he's been home with the kid, let me say kids, for the last 3 months now. He has had 3 holidays in a row. Kids come out with, kids demand a lot. We all know that. I believe that if you're a parent listening to me today, you have spent, or we have all spent, much more than even when the kids are in school. And there's no any income. So
this well, we are keeping quiet because, we can hear the sense of what you're saying. We're just wondering, okay, so how would this work?
Now, looking at the practicality of it and saying because essentially what we are saying then is that if parents will not pay school fees, somebody's going to shoulder that burden. And the next best option of the group or entity that will shoulder this burden is government, right? Government who has cried over certain things for the longest period of time.
Over all things.
Over all things, and have been saying that there is no money and trying to be creative. Just as you said, that they've been getting donations left, right, and center. The same government, do you think in reality then is going to be able to say, all right, we'll shoulder the cost of this and allow students to go to school, and we will shoulder the burden for the next X number of terms?
What is this school fees, by the way? So tuition is free, isn't it?
In public schools.
In public schools.
Yeah, tuition is free.
Is that what you're calling academic fees? So what is this academic fees?
Not really. I have a son who goes to college.
Okay.
And I in Tundu in Mombasa, and I have to pay.
Oh yeah, so, tuition in college is not free. True.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is the government should come out clear. Because if the government could tell us once upon a time, a month ago or so, that they were sending some monies to individual numbers, I don't know, some chiefs arrange for numbers and people are receiving 2,000 via M-Pesa. Who really can account for that?
The recipients.
How would we know they really send it to how many people in this republic?
Yeah.
The only way they can convince us is to tell us go to school. No tuition fees. That way we can really account for. And let us have the burden of.
What you're saying, Michael, makes a lot of sense. Because basically there are very many people who've lost their livelihoods because of COVID-19. People have lost jobs. People have had their incomes drastically reduced. People who are not even having businesses, they have closed their businesses. People are in distress. And yes, those same people are required to think about their children, and their children are going back to school, even all the way. And you've raised an issue. People who are going to college, they still require to pay school fees. Now, when we say that the government should shoulder this, basically what you're saying is go to school and let the government find somewhere in its budget to cover for this. Makes a lot of sense for me, by the way, to me. It does.
Yeah, exactly that.
Michael, let me ask a question. Over what period of time would you want the government to shoulder this particular burden?
They have enough time right now. They're not going to parliament. They're doing nothing.
They're going to parliament.
Yeah, they're going to parliament, but not as used to, because of because they're going in session. So there's enough time for them to meet. I mean, this is not. This also is an emergency.
What city is asking? Is it? Do you want this relief for a term, for 2 terms, for a year?
Earlier on, there was a gentleman. The other gentleman, I joined the conversation later. But there was a gentleman who was saying that they are ready. Anytime the government can react they're ready to open schools in a month or 2 weeks, depending. So I think our government can afford for the next semester at least. Let's see how it goes. If the pandemic is on us, that is something else. But they should prepare us, to tell us in advance that we have decided that in the next semester we're going to suspend the school fees. That way will enable us, the parents, to now to focus on something else. But right now, I'm like worried. My landlord wants it on my knee.
Yep.
Everyone, and I'm thinking, what about if they tell us school is next week? Will my son go or daughter go to school? So I'm confused because I don't know who to pay first.
Do you see a situation where look, Michael, if we're going to look at it, bare-knuckled truth is that the chances of the government saying that they are going to shoulder the cost for children and older to go to school for the next term, for example, looks slim to none. So do you see a situation whereby then a lot of students will not be going back to school in September, if that is what is called on?
It is very true. I know that for sure there'll be issues of people going back to school. So it's about the individual parent, and now he or she can negotiate. If it's a loan, let me pay as a 50%, like the college, the higher education would do. The colleges, you can pay some percent. But already, even before COVID, some kids were already been sent home.
Right.
Yep.
So how can a kid that was sent home before COVID be allowed now to go back to school? It's like the landlord who say, the guys who are not paid. I mean, if you had not paid me from January to February, from February, March, it's okay. But if you had my debt of January, February, please pay here. The other one,
then we
talk about it. Yes, the same thing. So can schools do that?
Do the same. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you for joining us. And in fact, we're going to open this up for conversation. 0719-012-600. Do you agree with Michael? Should the government offer some relief by saying everybody who needs to go back to school, when we reopen school, go and don't pay, at least for a term or a semester, the academic fees? This makes a lot of sense. It's basically saying offer relief, direct relief to parents. 12 minutes to 8 o'clock. Good morning.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. Online, mobile, and on radio. Twitter at Spice FM KE.
0719-012-600. Also on Facebook and Twitter. Should the government waive fees for at least one semester when the schools reopen? Complete. It doesn't matter. Primary, secondary, tertiary, university, all of them. Let the government foot every bill so that you can help the parents who are in distress. I say yes. What do you say, City?
A definite yes. But it falls in the realm of wishful thinking.
This is wishful thinking.
Yes, because the government will announce loudly and tell you that this money you speak of, they actually don't have. And it falls in the realm of the money they have also been given, they also don't have.
They don't know it. So they know where it is, but they're not going to tell you.
So, I mean, even this gentleman who said that the schools are ready, I really doubt it.
The private schools,
I doubt it.
Yeah. As we do that, as we open the phone lines for that conversation, 0719-012-600. Remember, we're also running this conversation on the standard e-paper, which you can access on Safaricom by just dialing star 550 star 2 hash. That's star 550 star 2 hash. For only 20 shillings, you will be able to access the standard e-paper, just the way it is, page to page. You don't need to download any apps. You don't need to think about any data charges or any sign up. And then if you tell me what page is this story, it's somewhere between page 1 and page 5 of the standard. And this is what it says. 2 different courts have refused to grant a man a divorce from his wife of 13 years so he could remarry. Instead, the magistrates court and the high court are in agreement that the man should continue living with the woman he accuses of being cold and distant. What page is this story and what's the headline of this story? Let's go to the phone lines and hear if somebody has this. Edmund in Dandora, good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're well, thank you. Would you like to attempt this one? What page is this story on the standard?
The story is on page 3 of the standard.
Mm-hmm.
And the subtitle, it says, Stick to your first wife, court tells man.
Stick to your first wife, court tells man.
Yeah.
You got it right. You got it right, Edmund.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You downloaded the standard e-paper, just reading it online, right? On your mobile phone, star 550 star 2 hash.
Yes.
Well done. Congratulations. You get the 1,000 shillings worth of Safaricom airtime.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the newspaper. Speak to our producer, John, so he can give you the details of how you'll get your 1,000 bob worth of airtime.
Okay, thank you.
Asante sana. So this is the situation of Miss Kenya's biggest conversation. The conversation continues. Also, remember what we are saying is this gentleman called Michael Graham Katana is asking the government to shoulder the burden and give parents a stimulus by saying, when you open schools, no school fees to be paid for at least a term. 0 school fees at all. Primary, secondary, college, wherever. Don't pay any school fees. This supports parents who are sitting with their children at home and they may not be able to afford any school fees if schools reopen. And the children will be the ones that are disadvantaged. So how can the government do this? How can the government support? 0719-012-600. Do you think that this is something that is valid? Is it a valid argument? Is it practical? You were saying it falls on the realm of wishful
something
thinking.
That it is wishful thinking, because even as we're speaking, what I was thinking about is this. How often do we do an audit to determine that everything the government says or plans for education is actually spent the way it should be spent?
You're talking about money just alone. Even the things they said they were going to do, they've not done. Me, I still have a bone.
They always do it in portions, by the way.
Let's add this one.
Yes.
You see, just because they haven't done, it doesn't mean that we still have a burden. Once schools reopen, we need to take our children back to school.
Even the ones that were dilapidated, that they said that they were going to
school fees. We are not going to be able to afford school fees. Are we going to have starting
the schools that
conversations
were supposed to be rehabilitated so that they could
the schools that they said they were going to be able to rehabilitate so that they could meet certain standards of structure. October 31st. I'm still on that thing till tomorrow. October 31st, the public was supposed to have received a report. Okay. The Ministry of Education was supposed to have received a report that they would then make public about these schools. So because your child could be going to a school that was in a dilapidated state and you didn't even know.
That was even shut down.
That was shut down and you did not know. That information has not been made public till tomorrow. We don't know about that. Now, those are things that they had planned. Look at it like this. Those are things that they had planned for. And still has not been completed.
And chances are they even budgeted for.
Is it this one that you didn't plan for and you say you really don't have money that you say that you will do? Is it this one now that you say that you'll take care of children and that you'll take the burden off of parents and say that let them come to school, the government will shoulder the burden? Is it this one that you didn't plan for? The one that you planned, you even put it down on paper, 5 years roving report and went around the country.
See, this one doesn't require much. I don't care what they're doing in the background. Just say, let the children go to school. Don't pay school fees. That's all.
No. But you see now, teachers have, they have to take into, look, do you know how many things have to be taken into consideration for free things to happen? Somebody has to receive a salary.
Those ones will still be paid.
Other teachers have to be hired.
Those ones, shauri yao.
Shauri who?
Shauri ya serikali.
As
far as I'm concerned, my child is out of the house.
Forward, if you think about it for a second, it actually makes sense in this. When there is a budget for education, part of it is paying fees paying salaries for the teachers.
Yeah.
But then we have private schools, Baba.
Private, we are talking about here public, first of all.
Private schools are going to, they've already come up and said they need a stimulus package.
They said they need a stimulus package to set up
let
this
private schools
apparatus in
Let's
school.
start with the one that is direct.
It is
public
possible.
Schools.
It is possible. It is actually possible.
They said they don't have money.
Steve in Nairobi, good morning.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Morning too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was to appreciate about that conversation because
if
you really look the government after maybe opening every business that is here and there, they'll keep lashing on asking tax. Maybe for example, if you look at those restaurants that pays a lot of cash, they will also pay tax as usual. So they have that ability. They can't tell us that they don't have money to fund the people, while they are saying that they are funding people with M-Pesa, 2,000 but each person. I don't know who are those people they are funding.
So you say that they should waive school fees for a term.
They should, even 1 year.
Even a year.
Even if it's a private, what they have to do is maybe to minimize the price of the salary of those teachers or maybe the workers. So they tell the society to contribute what they have so that they're gonna pay the salary of maybe teachers, the securities and whatever of the schools.
Of the schools. Steve, thank you very much for your contribution. We shall revisit this conversation another day when we have now give it proper time and proper time to argue for or against. In the next hour in this show, we are going to be speaking to a Tanzanian politician. He's a former member of parliament. He was a member of parliament in the opposition party, Chadema. He was very vocal. In fact, he was a chief whip of the opposition in parliament. Then one day in September 2017, he's living out of parliament. He's shot 17 times. The man 16 times. 16. He was rushed. He was rushed to the nearby Dodoma hospital. He spent some time there. He was airlifted to Nairobi. He spent some weeks here in Nairobi undergoing treatment. And now he's in which country?
Belgium.
He's in Belgium. And he's going to be speaking to us from Belgium. The man is called Tundu Lissu. He will be speaking to us shortly. As we go to the top of the hour, CT Muga, what is today's proverb?
Do not step on a dog's tail and he will not bite you. It's a Cameroonian saying.
It's a Cameroonian.
So there has to be a dog.
Somewhere.
And hopefully it's one of the breeds that have tails.
Not the Doberman.
Not that Dobermans don't really have long tails to speak of.
No, they don't. They've got a little stump over there.
They don't. I think the reference is these mongrels that we see
lying around in the village,
hanging out
in the market, especially
and always looking hungry,
especially the ones in the market. The thing is asleep. There's so much noise, so much activity in the marketplace, but the dog is not even aware. It's completely oblivious. It's asleep. It's dreaming, and then you step on its tail.
Then you know.
And then you will know. So basically, you're telling us, unless you chokoza somebody.
Unless you chokora it, actually. As I said, there are many sayings that are similar or akin to this one. The thorn, the snake. But all it means is, please.
Do not go looking for trouble.
Don't go around looking for trouble unnecessarily.
You'll find it.
Yes, it'll find you.
If you look for trouble and it finds you, Please,
woe betide you.
Deal with it. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. It's coming up to 8 o'clock. Remember what we've said. In the next hour, we're going to be talking to Tanzania's opposition politician, Tundu Lissu, who's in Belgium. We'll be asking him about this state of things in Tanzania. What's happening in Tanzania? Is there COVID? Is there going to be an election this year? Is the opposition going to participate? Well, that's coming up shortly. Good morning.
So what's happening where it's happening? It's a bit of a mess on Mombasa Road and Thika Road, as it were. Unfortunately, as we see this right now, town outbound is causing a serious traffic snarl-up on Mombasa Road. There's been a multiple vehicle accident at the Samia Business Park on Mombasa Road. That is going to cause a lot of problems this morning, and it's affecting traffic in and outbound on Mombasa Road. So if you're up on Mombasa Road wondering why you're not being able to get down towards town, this is the reason. If you're on the side of Nyayo Stadium heading upwards and you're wondering why it's moving a lot slower than usual, there's an accident that has happened there, and so that's why it's going to take you a little bit longer to get where you're going. Still waiting for emergency services to get there to clear this up, but that's what is happening around there. The fog is quite low on Thika Road as well today, and it's really, really chilly today, so this has affected visibility, and cars are moving a lot slower than they normally would. All right, and trying to get into the CBD from the Jogo Road around the City Stadium roundabout is going to take you a lot longer this morning as well. It's moving very slowly today. It's a Monday morning, everybody's out trying to do their business, and unfortunately accidents do happen, and this is what we're faced with right now. Spice FM KE, let us know what you see. We're trying to keep it moving. As much information as you have would help us all to move and get there a lot faster.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain.
Nairobi 94.4, Malindi 97.7, 90.9 in Nyeri, Eldoret 96.7, Nakuru 96.0, Kisumu 102.5, 87.9 in Mombasa, and we broadcast worldwide, www.spicefm.co.ke. We're also on Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Let's take the conversation to regional politics and regional affairs. We have been discussing Tanzania almost every week. So every week you find out, we keep asking ourselves, so what's happening in Tanzania? First of all, COVID-19, are they fighting COVID-19? Is there COVID-19? We see their leadership coming out and saying, well, we prayed for 3 days, and now COVID-19 kwisha Tanzania. And then there's this other aspect of it, that Tanzania is preparing for a general election that's coming up later this year. And when if you look at Tanzania and how it's conducting itself, general election in mind. Look at Burundi, general election was in mind. Look at Trump's administration. They have their eye focused on the general election. Talking about reopening the economy and all this push for reopening of the economy, general election in mind. But back to Tanzania, a general election is coming, but the opposition is basically like speaking from the hills. Because the president of Tanzania has taken time and spoken openly. He is not one who hides. He's spoken openly. He does not entertain opposition. We have seen opposition members of parliament and how they are treated in parliament. You've seen opposition parties and how opposition parties have done. We've seen the person who was the joint opposition candidate in the last general election has come and has had a handshake with the President Magufuli. And now we've also seen in 2017, this opposition member of parliament, very vocal man. He is a lawyer. He is a member of the opposition Chadema political party. He was in parliament. He'd come out of parliament. Man was shot right there in Dodoma. And he had to be airlifted to Nairobi, later airlifted to Belgium, where he's been. He has been undergoing treatment, has undergone a number of operations, and now he's able to speak to us. And as we gear towards the 2020 general election in Tanzania, it's good to find out whether he also wants to come back and participate in this election. The gentleman himself is Tundu Lissu. Tundu Lissu is saying he's gonna vie in this particular year. He's a former president of the Tanganyika Law Society, the Bar Association of Tanzania Mainland, and the chief legal officer for the Tanzanian opposition party. Good morning, Tundu.
Good morning, kaka. Habari za Nairobi?
Nairobi, mvua na baridi. Habari za Belgium?
Okay. Belgium is fine. Belgium is summer. It's sunny. It's beautiful.
Great.
Welcome to the Situation Room, Tundu Lissu.
Thank you so much for having me in the Situation Room. I'm ready to roll.
Good.
Oh, fantastic.
It's good to hear you speaking and being so, energetic. Tell us, how are you doing health-wise?
I'm doing very well. My doctors have declared me fit to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm basically raring to go.
Okay, let's start with
no
you.
No health issues. I have a bit of a limp, but nothing really to prevent me from doing what I love doing.
Right. Well, maybe we can ask ourselves, or ask you then in this case, and starting with you, a double-headed question. First of all, what is this thing that you love doing? And then number two, after you were shot, who did you think did it and why?
I will start with the first one because it is very easy. Everyone knows what I love doing, and I love doing politics. But I love doing politics with the people. So that's the easy part.
Right.
The second one is who was behind the shooting. And I have always said publicly, and I will say it now, I know I was shot because I was very much a pain in the backside of some very big people in the government of Tanzania. I was a pain in the backside of President Magufuli. And I know, and I have been told by people very close to, the center of power, very close to President Magufuli, that I was actually shot on his own personal orders. Now, I was told that, and therefore anyone can say, "Well, you cannot be serious, Mr. Lissu. You are a lawyer. That's hearsay." It is hearsay, yes, but let's look at what happened. Let's look at what happened on the day I was shot. More importantly, before I was shot and after I was shot.
Right.
I was the opposition chief whip in parliament. I was living in a government housing compound paid for by Bunge. My apartment was a Bunge apartment. It is secure 24/7. And I had lived in that place since I first got elected in 2010. This heavily guarded government compound, you have the outer security perimeter, which is guarded 24/7, and you have inner security perimeter on each individual block, which is also guarded 24/7. And you have CCTV cameras. Now, on the day I was shot, security in the outer perimeter, outer and inner perimeter was removed. So there was completely no security whatsoever. I was not shot outside in the streets. I was shot outside my apartment block on the driveway. No security whatsoever. And the government of Tanzania and the police force have never told the world, have never told Tanzanians who removed the security in that government housing compound where ministers live, where the deputy speaker lives. The deputy speaker is my neighbor. Actually, I was taken to hospital by the housemaid or the speaker. She drove me to hospital. All right. Who removed the perimeter, the security in that government housing compound?
Was there an investigation conducted into this incident? Was an investigation conducted into this incident?
There has never been, as far as I know, there has never been any investigation. There has never been any report of any investigation. They have done absolutely nothing. And the reason is they say, we cannot investigate because Mr. Lissu and his driver have fled to Belgium.
Yeah.
You get my point?
Right. But okay, so Tundu, just before you go on to that, Tundu, is that, you were very clear at this point that you were opposition leader. However, you were resident in an apartment that was paid for by the government. So then, suffice to say that you had every right to ask questions then about what happened. Suffice to say also that you're a little bit preoccupied at the moment, at that time, getting well, right? But then did you ask any questions? Did you forward, a query as per what could have possibly happened when you found out details of what transpired that day?
These queries have been asked by everybody who has spoken about the assassination attempt against me. Everyone. And no answers whatsoever. No answers whatsoever. But before that, before the shooting, 2 hours before the shooting, President Magufuli was on national television. And President Magufuli loves hogging the networks, right?
As
on
does
TV,
any politician.
I've stayed in Kenya long enough to know how your politicians behave themselves.
Yes.
So they are not nowhere near. They are not in Magufuli's league.
Okay.
All right. Now, 2 hours before I was shot, President Magufuli said on national television that those who betray the country when it is engaged in an economic war do not deserve to live. Those are his exact words. The guy speaks such bad English, but that day he spoke in English. He said they do not deserve to live. Wanaosaliti nchi ikiwa kwenye vita ya kiuchumi do not deserve to live. Now, who are these people who are betraying the country when it is in an economic war?
Economic saboteurs.
Not economic saboteurs, brother. Magufuli had gone about confiscating people's property, unlawfully so. He had been throwing people in jail without due process, confiscating property, seizing this, seizing that, calling that an economic war. And I opposed that. I opposed him so vehemently and so directly. We're talking about the mining sector here.
Yep.
And so I'm someone who has...
You were raising all these issues in Parliament. Of course, you are the opposition chief whip. You are raising the issues in Parliament, outside Parliament.
Absolutely, yes.
Let's talk about the opposition and how the opposition and the government were engaging at the point, and even how the opposition and government of Tanzania are engaging even now. What would you say is that relationship between the opposition and government?
Only last week, today is Monday, right?
Yes.
Monday last week, the leader of the official opposition, and the chairman of my party, Chadema, Mr. Mbowe, was attacked in his residence, in the same, basically behind my apartment block, in exactly the same area, government housing compound, which is guarded 24/7. This time around, they removed security, saying, we don't want the security guards to get infected with corona. Corona, that they say, is finished because we prayed it away. So Mr. Mbowe was attacked by thugs, hired thugs, been beaten up senseless, and got his leg broken. He is in hospital as we speak. That is the leader of the official opposition in Tanzania parliament, is the chairman of the largest political party, opposition political party in the country, and he gets beat up like that by thugs after security has been removed. And only yesterday, the speaker, our bunge is heavily dominated by CCM. The speaker, they have been saying since day one, since he was attacked, that he was drunk. Where was he coming from at that time of the night? He was attacked around 1 o'clock in the morning. He was drunk, he fell. Guys.
He broke his leg.
He broke his leg.
So what I'm hearing you saying. What I'm hearing you saying, Lissu, is that there has been, and this we hear you say, this we hear other Chadema politicians say, is that there's a crackdown on the opposition in Tanzania.
There has been a crackdown on the opposition in Tanzania from the day Magufuli became president.
So this is explicitly by the Magufuli administration. It wasn't there in the previous administrations.
No, we have never gone through anything like this in our entire lives as a multi-party state. We've never seen this kind of repression before. Now, I wanted to say that the thing is, Magufuli has been absolutely clear about what his intentions were. Basically, hardly 3 months after he was sworn in, he was sworn in on November 5th, 2015. Now, exactly 3 months later, on February 6th, the 39th anniversary of his party, of CCM, President Magufuli said on national television, as I said, the man loves television. He said on national television that he would see to it that by year 2020, by this election year, there is no opposition party in Tanzania. On national television. So, as they say, the rest is history.
As you can see.
The rest is history.
As we are getting towards as we're getting towards the election later this year, because he was talking about by the next general election, and this is the next general election, we still have opposition parties. They're still there. They haven't been unfolded. They haven't been declared illegal or unconstitutional. The parties still exist.
Yes.
Do you think the support for the opposition is still the same as it was 4 years ago?
I think it has grown bigger.
How would you tell that?
We have survived. Because we have what we did not have 5 years ago. That is to say, today we have more. We are organizationally stronger. We have far more presence almost everywhere in the country. What we didn't have prior to 2015. And the reason is simple. And I think it is important you understand what I'm talking about here. After Magufuli came to power, we were completely prohibited from doing any public activity, political activity. No meetings. Absolutely no meetings. No public meetings. No rallies. our party, my party, Chadema, basically grew up on the public square, grew up in public meetings. Suddenly, we found ourselves being compelled, being refused to hold any public meeting anywhere. In fact, the first 2-3 years, it was even impossible to carry out internal party meetings. We meet as a central committee, police thugs come and they break the meeting, they arrest people. So what happened then? We were compelled to change our tactics. If you cannot hold public meetings, you do the opposite then. You go underground. And therefore today, we have structures and leadership, elected leadership, at all levels, from the lowest to the highest, almost across the country. We didn't have that in prior to 2015. And it's simply because we were beaten up in the head. We had to dig deep into the society.
Okay.
So in terms of organization structure,
I hear you saying, Tundu, essentially that had it not been for what you call the kind of oppression of the opposition in this case, then it would not have been as strong as it is today.
I believe so. Okay. I believe so, absolutely.
So then why have you chosen to be away from Tanzania at this point? You're calling yourself a political refugee in some quarters. Why have you chosen to stay or to be away?
Have I chosen that?
Have you?
My dear. I survived 16 bullets.
Right.
I survived 16 bullets, and actually thanks to Kenyans, thanks to you people. I have said it so many times that I'm partly Kenyan because I have lots of Kenyan blood running through coursing through my veins.
Right.
I survived 16 bullets. I have had 24 surgeries. Okay? Those who shot me, those who wanted me dead, are still at large. The government, the police force of Tanzania, has stated publicly that they have no suspect. They have made not a single arrest. They have not made a single prosecution. For all intents and purposes, nothing happened. Nothing happened. And I know, and there have been this chatter on the internet that we'll get it. He comes back, we'll get it. This time we'll not miss. As if they missed the target last time. I got hit 16 times.
Right.
Yep.
They
did not miss the target.
So it seems that there's a target on your back even now.
All right. So they have crosshairs on my back, on my head, somewhere. All right. Now, under such circumstances, it's only natural that I take precautions.
For your own safety.
Dead people tell no tales. Dead people tell no tales.
That makes absolute sense. Now, if we look towards elections, this is an election year in Tanzania, and taking into consideration all that has happened previously, Tundu, you've said very clearly that if the party sees you as a fit choice, you would not. You put yourself up for running for the presidency of Tanzania. That would require you. That would require you at some point to be back in the country. Even with the target, even with the target on your back, if that nomination did come through, and if that go-ahead came through from the people, essentially, would you go back?
Absolutely. If I'm nominated candidate by my party, then I will be heading to Tanzania. The point is this. With a nomination, and with the kind of national and international attention that will bring, I believe my security will be more assured. There will always be a risk. I'm not saying it's going to be completely risk-free. But But in conditions where I am a presidential candidate and Tanzanians are watching and the people of the world are watching, our friends and neighbors across our northern borders are watching, as you are, then I believe my security will be better secured than in any other environment. And therefore I have said, if I'm a nominee of my party to face Magufuli, I will I will go to Tanzania and I will tell Magufuli and his people, here I am. Let's get going.
With the kind of crackdown that you say has happened with the opposition parties and even with the opposition candidates, we saw in the civic elections where a number of your candidates were not even cleared to vie. Do you even see yourself being cleared?
Not a number.
90?
96% of our candidates were disqualified.
Yep. So, I want to ask you directly, Tundu Lissu, do you see yourself being qualified to vie for the presidency?
Wait a minute. It is always important to know where these things come from. Magufuli got it from Jomo Kenyatta in 1969. Yeah? Kenyatta disqualified all opposition candidates in 1969. So that's where our people, we are learning a few lessons from you, Kenyans.
All right.
Take even the good ones, okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. So back to your question. Am I assured that I will not be disqualified? Of course I'm not. But that does not mean I will not run. I will run and let them do the disqualification, and the world and the people of Tanzania will decide what to do.
There are some quarters that have argued. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead. Finish.
Yeah, I was saying that whatever happens now, they will have to do it in the open with the world watching. Yeah, with the people of Tanzania watching and with the world watching.
There are those that have argued
we are asking the world not only to watch, not only to make verbal condemnations, but to take punitive actions. Governments which behave this way do not deserve.
So, Tundu, there are those that have argued. Are you still on the line?
I'm on the line. On the line.
There are those that have argued both in Tanzania and outside Tanzania that one of the tools that the opposition could use in this particular case is to boycott the election altogether. Basically go out publicly and say, look, if we got 96 of our candidates disqualified in the last election, if we are seeing the kind of intimidation and harassment of our opposition leaders, even now you're talking about just less than 10 days ago, the leader of the opposition in parliament gets roughed up. If we are seeing this kind of treatment by the government of opposition, then the tool that you can use, and it could be powerful, is by declaring and going out all out and saying, we boycott this election, and calling on your membership to boycott the election.
If we boycott the elections under Tanzanian law, they will pass unopposed. All of them will be deemed to have been elected.
Yep.
And in the presidential, in the parliamentary election, the law says that a member of parliament who is deemed to be elected is deemed to have received 51% of the total vote. And that will be the presidential tally as well. Now, we are not going to allow them to be deemed to have been elected.
Okay.
We will give them a run for their bloody money.
Could be bloody money in this case, and how you've been,
all pun intended.
Right, and how you've described it. But I mean, just furthering that just a little bit, Tundu, and you've talked about,
Yes, yes.
obviously, for you to run, there's some kind of change that you want to be able to bring into. And
Absolutely,
we've looked
yes.
at certain narratives that have been created or folded. It could be the truth, but maybe you can now give us an eye into what Tanzania looks like that you might want to change. We have been, one narrative that we've been given is that media has been shut down, and we're talking about local and foreign media in terms of, the stories they tell specifically when it comes to government. Number two is that the people of Tanzania may be a little bit too afraid to be able to open up and talk about the injustice they may face from a Magufuli administration, or are very happy with the Magufuli administration in the way in which things are being run. And thirdly, most recently, the state of COVID in the country, whereby, as you said, that, prayers have been said over the country and, everything is all right. These are the narratives that have been drawn, painted for the country. From where you sit, are there stark differences between what these narratives have painted and what your belief or what your overview is? And what would you be hoping to change?
Well, I will start with the last, with COVID-19. The last time the government of Tanzania gave any data about COVID-19 in Tanzania was on April 29th of this year. And at that time, they were burying people at the dead of the night in secret graveyards. People were dying without explanation, it was horrible. And then the president went live again. The president loves television. And he said, no more information on infections, on hospitalizations, on deaths. No more secret burials. No more telling people why somebody died. And therefore, we have defeated COVID-19 very simply by not talking about it, by not saying anything about it other than to say, the God is on our side, we are COVID-19 free. All right? It is true. In Kenya as well as in Tanzania and almost everywhere in Africa, we have not seen the kind of death that we saw in Europe, for instance. In this small country where I live, in Belgium, over 9,000 people died in 3 months. For a country of 11 million people. You know the numbers in the UK, in France, in Italy, Spain, and US and elsewhere. So it is true that the pandemic has not hit Africa the way I personally feared, and the way that medical experts feared, WHO feared. It hasn't hit us that hard. But that is not to say that it hasn't hit us that hard because we chose not to speak about it. There may be other factors. They have absolutely nothing to do with what our government did or did not do. Particularly when you are not being given any information whatsoever. People continue to die. The difference between Kenya and Uganda and other countries and Tanzania is, if it happens in Kenya, we know it because you will be told by your government. If it happens in Tanzania, you will never know because the government has chosen to say absolutely nothing about COVID-19. So that is the first part of your question. The other part deals with the effects of the crackdown and media. I think that was the first part of your question, right?
Yes.
As I said earlier, we have gone through hell. And I say we have gone through hell, not only us in the political parties, but the independent media in Tanzania has been hit real hard. Journalists, Mwananchi newspapers is partly owned by the Nation Media Group of Kenya.
Yeah.
One of their correspondents, Azori Gwanda, was picked up by people who identified themselves as policemen, picked up from his home, told his pregnant wife that I'm being taken to the police station, and he has not been seen or heard from since November 2017. Newspapers have been shut down. Journalists have been arrested, prosecuted in court. Radio stations have been penalized. And the president, our president who loves national television so much, said on TV that the press should not think they are not that free. On live television. Now, so you have a situation where if you pick up a newspaper in Tanzania that is not even owned by the government, or you tune in on the radio stations or the television networks, in fact, particularly those that are not government owned, the music that they sing is not different from TBC, the government-owned network. The newspapers write stuff. They basically publish these statements that are sent from Ikulu, and they print them exactly as they are. Editors are told on the phone to write or not to write particular stories. So the state of the media in Tanzania is worse.
So there is state censorship of the media.
It is worse than at any period since the 1970s.
Tundu Lissu, I'd like us to take a short break. Have a glass of warm milk or water or something, and then we take a look at weather and traffic in Nairobi and Kenya, and then we continue with this conversation. We are speaking with Tundu Lissu. He is an opposition leader of Tanzania's Chadema party. He's in Belgium. He's been there where he's been recuperating after being shot 16 times while outside his apartment block owned by the Parliament of Tanzania in Dodoma in 2017. He's an opposition leader. He's outspoken. He's gearing up. He wants Chadema to give him the party ticket to compete against President John Pombe Magufuli later this year in a general election. This conversation continues. Tundu, just stay on the line. Let's take a look at the traffic and the weather. 23 minutes to 9 o'clock.
Showers in some parts of Nairobi city this morning, likely to be full on in the afternoon with highs of 21 and lows of 12. In Nyeri at 16 degrees, it'll be mostly cloudy. Thunderstorms to carry the afternoon with highs of 20. Nakuru at 16 degrees, highs of 22 today, and we'll see thunderstorms and heavy rain conditions later on. Eldoret already drizzling at 15 degrees. We will see highs of 20 and lows of 12 with thunderstorms through most of the day and into the evening. 21 degrees in Kisumu and partly cloudy, highs of 27 with rains later on. Kakamega will follow suit with highs of 23 and lows of 15. All right, it's going to be really cloudy in Malindi today. The chance of rain is quite threatening with highs of 29 and lows of 26. Partly cloudy in Mombasa, 26 degrees with highs of 28 and lows of 24. All right, let's take a look into Kampala, where at 20 degrees is mostly cloudy with highs of 24 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam is mostly sunny at 23 degrees with highs of 31. Johannesburg at 2 degrees is mostly sunny, clear conditions all through with highs of 14 and lows of -1 today. And finally, for now in Lagos at 25 degrees, light thunderstorms have become drizzles, and we'll go back to thunderstorms later with highs of 31 and lows of 24. All right, we've seen a terrible accident on Mombasa Road this morning right outside the Samia Business Park, and that is affecting traffic in and outbound on Mombasa Road today. So this is what's happening. If you're stuck on either side of the highway, you know what the problem is. Waiyaki Way towards ABC Place, there's been yet another accident and a number of vehicles. So you're being asked to use the Loresho route via Kangemi to avoid the traffic today. Still waiting for emergency services to sort that out. All right. The upgrade of the Naivasha-Malaba Railway is to begin next month, but there has been some working on the roads this morning, trying to figure out how that will be, and it's likely to carry on for the next couple of weeks. So you want to be careful because traffic coming out of there is going to be quite something. All right, Jogo Road, the state of the roads is affecting the state of traffic, and getting into the CBD is going to be quite an issue today. Likoni Road also, the potholes are causing some traffic. This is slowing things down considerably. All right, take a look around. Tell us what you see. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Share that information with us. We want to keep people moving, but it's proving to be such a challenge this morning everywhere you look.
We salute everybody who's watching us online on www.spicefm.co.ke. Also, everybody watching our live stream on YouTube, Spice FM KE, watching the same live stream on Facebook, Spice FM KE, and Twitter, Spice FM KE. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room, we have CT Muga, Ndu Oko, Eric Latif, and on the line, joining us from Belgium, is Tanzania's opposition leader from the Chadema party. He's also a lawyer. He is Tundu Lissu. He has been in Belgium since he went there for 2 years. He's been undergoing treatment after he was shot 16 times. 16. We can't just say he was shot. He was shot 16 times outside his apartment block in Dodoma, which is owned. He was basically being housed by the government of Tanzania through the Parliament of Tanzania. He was a member of Parliament. He lost that seat soon after because he was absent for a number of consecutive times. And he was undergoing treatment, obviously. He talks about wanting to go back to Tanzania. He wants to participate in the next general election. He'd like his party, Chadema, to give him their party ticket. CT.
Mheshimiwa, there's a question I'd like to ask. This is the background from which I'm asking it. There's a narrative that unfortunately has dogged many, many African leaders. When they're in the opposition, they have promises and they have virtues that makes everybody want to vote them in. Now, the moment they get the coveted seat, then they turn to be something completely opposite to what the people who elected them expected. What guarantee do the citizens of Tanzania have that should you actually get that seat and become president, that you'll be a transformative leader?
Tanzanian citizens should not just elect and go back to sleep. They should elect leaders and put their feet on fire all the time. What I mean is this. Leaders will always misbehave if they are not held to account. What we need, therefore, is not just to elect good leaders, but to make sure that they don't turn bad. Because people have a tendency of changing once in power. We know that from our own bitter history. And therefore the trick with us is, we are not angels. What will make us not change is if our people are engaged on a continuous basis. We want a citizen. We don't want subjects. You get my point?
Yep.
Number two, leaders turn bad when laws and constitutions are designed in such a way that leaders become unaccountable. We have a constitution in Tanzania and our laws, and Mwalimu said, and I said it last week when I was announcing my bid. Our constitution, according to Nyeri 1978, gives the president sufficient powers to be a dictator. Who needs that kind of constitution? Today, you Kenyans have, you live in a democracy. You have your issues, we know. You have your issues. But you are not where you were in the 80s when you were being hunted down by Moi's thugs. You are not where you were in the 60s when Kenyatta was destroying the opposition and destroying democracy, the 60s and 70s. Because you fought, you created a new constitutional dispensation, and you constantly hold your leaders on fire, their feet on fire. They are always on their toes. That is the kind of citizenry that we need in Tanzania that will ensure that leaders live up to their promises. If they don't, they get the boot up their backside. That's the only way for leaders to behave.
You know, if you have a citizenry that has been cowed and that have been used to being told exactly what to do and are expected to do what they're told at the risk of probably their own lives, how then do you get them to change to be this proactive citizenry who are constantly taking challenging the leadership that they have elected?
Well, Kenyans were like that at some point in their lives. They changed. Our people will change. Actually, our people have changed a lot. The fact that we have seen this kind of violence from Magufuli, it is because people were not taking orders as they had done previously. And what he has done, the result of this repression is, as I said earlier, today the opposition may be bruised and battered. We are not dead and out yet. We are still alive and kicking. And our people today, in my view, are wiser politically than they were 5 years ago. So Magufuli's project to send Tanzania back into the 70s has not worked, and it will not work. And I believe, I'm optimistic, that the post-Magufuli world is a much better world for Tanzania.
All right.
Thanks because of these doors of repression that we have received these 5 years.
All right. When President Magufuli came into office initially, he was seen as the cleanup president, and quite a lot of offices in the country, he went in and said, we're not going to allow this corruption, cleaned it out. We're not going to allow Tanzanians sitting around doing jobs, or rather seeming to be doing jobs, and we wanted a working Tanzania. And it was said here that was a narrative that was peddled across the region. And even here in Kenya, people said, oh, fantastic. This is what is even needed in this country. President. It's a working president. He's getting things done. He's going down to the ground and seeing that things are actually taking place. People who are not working that day, they didn't have a job. He would go into an industry, find that people are not working. You go home. We bring in people who are actually going to work. Was it working at that time, Tundu? And what has changed if the narrative of this seemingly working president has now turned into something else of terror, as it were, from what you suggest?
I saw an interview when I was in hospital, when I was at the Nairobi hospital. There was a discussion on television about, Kenya and Tanzania comparing Magufuli and Uhuru. And one gentleman said, you see the difference between Tanzania and Kenya is this. Our president, Uhuru Kenyatta, is the president. He is not a human resources officer. Magufuli ni afisa utumishi. It is not the business of the president of the country to go to offices to see who is late and who has come to office early. That is not part of his job description. The fact that he's doing that is a verdict. The verdict is that must be a failing state.
Yep.
If you have a president,
but don't you think, Tundu, that that also indicates that he was coming in taking over a government that had gotten to a point where he kept saying, kuna uzembe serikalini. There were people who are supposed to be working, they are not working. Yes, he is not the HR, but he is the chief executive. And if the chief executive decides to walk around and see what his departments are doing, that's within the purview of the chief executive. Basically, this was Magufuli trying to bring back order and discipline in public service.
And where did it end?
With order and discipline.
Where is order and discipline?
Even in the opposition.
The country is in a shambles. You know? The country, we are going the way of Zimbabwe. Guys, we are going the way of Robert Mugabe, Zimbabwe. That's where we are.
So let me just ask you a direct question. Was there a return to order and discipline in public service at that point? Especially, let's take one example. A lot of
fear.
Let me give one example. The example where he declared that, you know what, we know that our administrative capital of this country is in Dodoma. But we have seen many government offices, even national government offices, everybody moving to Dar es Salaam. And he ordered, let's everybody head back to Dodoma and operate from Dodoma. Was that not a good thing?
No, it wasn't.
Why?
Of all the problems that we have, my brother, of all the problems that need resources to tackle, is moving the capital to Dodoma one of them?
It could be
For a country that cannot afford to educate its young, we have to get money from the world and to educate our children. Our secondary school program is mkopo wa benki ya dunia. Okay? For a country that cannot afford anything, is moving a capital from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma a priority, really?
But what is wrong? But what is wrong with that?
I actually want to ask a more pertinent question. With all the resources Tanzania has, Mheshimiwa, how is it that you say they cannot even afford to pay for the education of their children?
I'm saying because tumepata mkopo wa benki ya dunia.
Lakini kusema kweli Tanzania sina uwezo jamani.
Uko wapi?
Rasilimali, you guys have minerals.
You have minerals, I mean surely.
Highly arable land.
Do we have more minerals than Congo, than DRC?
Of course not.
No, I don't think so, but you do have. And DRC, unless it has recently improved, was in a far more deplorable condition than Tanzania.
But that's precisely the point I'm saying, that having natural wealth alone is not panacea to your problems. We are the third largest producer of gold in the continent. All right?
Yeah.
How much money do we get out of that gold?
Paltry sums.
How much?
Paltry sums. And in fact, now the president came in and got into that area of mining. And he said, let's review how these companies are operating. They're taking our minerals and we are getting nothing out of it. And he went there straight to deal with that. Would you fault him for that?
And I have faulted him publicly, and I still fault him today. Show us the numbers. Show us, tuonyeshe mahesabu.
What numbers?
Our mahesabu ya government takings for minerals after these policies were brought into our statute books in 2017. After the president seized the property of one of the mining companies, saying that we had been cheated of $495 billion US dollars. Billion US dollars. And that's why we are taking over their assets.
Okay.
And then they they talked about it, and we ended up being promised to get $300 million payable over 7 years. All right?
All right.
Usually, because they couldn't pay the salaries of public employees, they told that mining company, Jamani, give us 100 million of those 300. Ili tulipe mishahara. So show us the numbers.
So that policy did not work.
Backfired big time. Foreign direct investment has
what is the reason why it backfired, from in your opinion?
It backfired because once you do things like that, you scare away investors. Which Kenyan businessman wants to invest in Tanzania now? Which European or American or Chinese investor wants to invest in Tanzania now? When property rights are not respected like that by the government in power.
How would you have handled it?
So
How would you have handled it if you were the president and you're saying Tanzania, the third largest gold exporter in Africa, and then you're seeing the kind of situation your economy is in? How would you have addressed this issue?
I would have addressed it by looking at what the root cause is. And the root cause is you have a situation where you have negotiated. We have negotiated agreements with the individual companies. We have entered into bilateral investment treaties with their home government. We are part of the multilateral investment guarantee agency of the World Bank. We have international obligations to these investors and to the world. So the first thing that you do is not to go about seizing their property. The first thing that you do is to sit down and say, what is the problem here? Why are we getting paltry sums from our minerals? And the thing is, you can mine them on your own, and therefore you have entered into all these international arrangements. Go back to those arrangements. Renegotiate. Okay? Yep. Renegotiate in good faith. If you blackmail people, you run afoul of the law. Now you can do what you like in Tanzania, but you cannot get away with it internationally. But money will run away from your economy. So what has happened is exactly that. People have fled with their capital. You get the point?
Yeah, we get the point. A good point. Tundu, we want to thank you very much. We're coming to the end of the hour, which is the end of this particular interview. We thank you very much for speaking to us. Now, what message would you give to the people who are listening to you, who are Tanzanians, who are members of the East African community? What message would you have for them?
My message to Tanzanians first is, in October we have an opportunity to reverse course. We have an opportunity to get rid of these 5 years of tyranny. It is going to be difficult. It's going to be absolutely difficult. But we can do it if we decide. And I ask my people to make a decision to get rid of this tyranny this election year. To our East African brothers and sisters, Tanzania matters to you a lot. If Tanzania goes aflame, Kenya and Uganda and all our other neighbors will get burnt. And therefore, what is happening in Tanzania is utterly important to you as well. Help us. Keep talking about Tanzania. Keep shouting if something goes wrong. Keep our backs as well. Protect us from ourselves if need be.
Well said. Thank you very much. Tundu Antiphas Mugwai Lissu, Tanzanian lawyer, Chadema opposition leader, hoping to get the Chadema ticket to vie in the presidential election in October this year. Have a good day in Belgium.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Tundu. Really appreciate this.
Asante.
Karibu sana.
This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Well, we're coming to the top of the hour, coming to 9 o'clock. Today's Proverb City, Muga.
Do not step on a dog's tail, and he will not bite you.
I wish Tundu was still on the line.
Well,
do not step on a dog's tail, and he will not bite you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Self-explanatory. We've heard from the opposition leader. The conversation continues. Join the conversation as well on Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I know very many people were commenting as we're listening to this interview. We'll sample some of them in the next hour, but also we'll bring the conversation back to Kenyan politics. Good morning. It's now 9 o'clock.
all right, Thika Road inbound, heavy traffic from Muthaiga to Allsops, and this is taking us well into the CBD. Mombasa Road in both directions today is also quite the gridlock situation. It's not moving as smoothly as we'd like it to. Other parts of the city, though, not experiencing too much drama. It's just those two parts that we see now. Waiyaki Way also, we saw that there was an accident also joining in what drama Mombasa Road was not enjoying this morning. So we are still being asked to use an alternate route. Use the Loresha route to Kangemi if you can, and then come out. Use also the Red Hill bypass if you can. That'll be an option to take you out a lot quicker than what you see now. And then we're going to ask folks to be careful. The roads are slippery because it is raining in certain parts of the city. You want to go a little bit slower so that you don't have to get into an accident situation, please. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what you see. It's Monday morning and it's going to continue like this for some time. We want to be able to keep it moving as smoothly as possible.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times.
This one does not like
Oko, Nigeria.
Yeah, so let's bring this conversation back to our politics. Headline on today's Standard: What's Raila plotting? ODM leader has flung open doors to his Capitol Hill offices to politicians from across party lines, particularly reveling in hosting those fleeing the camp of his bitter rival, the Deputy President William Ruto. The cabinet secretaries and senior public servants are also paying homage to the former Prime Minister. We have seen that. We've seen Tanga people trooping to Capitol Hill, right? Going to shake hands with Baba. And then we have seen also now ODM whip in the National Assembly saying, you know, us guys are going to stand as a party behind Anne Waiguru, who has been impeached by the County Assembly of Kirinyaga, who's going to face the impeachment hearings in the Senate, depending on how the Senate chooses to do this. Well, it must happen, but whether it's going to be by the whole House or by a committee, that we shall find out tomorrow when the Senate resumes. However, ODM seems to be the one that's playing the games. But this issue of defections from here to there, we have seen also the Mulembe Nation having parties in Isinya the other time, Mulembe Nations having parties in Karen, meeting and saying we are realigning ourselves. What does this portend, City? Is this the same silly season again? Defections and counter-defections?
I wouldn't even call it silly season. If you wanted to give it a correct tag, attached to the silly would be culture.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you take, for instance, the fact that this country is referred to as a Christian nation, 85.5% of the people in this country purport, claim, state that they are Christian. Now, the unfortunate thing about Christianity is this: you know a Christian by his deeds. If we take 85% of the population in this country and we throw it to the arena of politics, and you say 85% of our politicians are Christians, or at least they claim to be Christian, one of the things that you'll find alarming is that the tenets that someone would subscribe to if they were Christian, you'd find it scant. It would be one of those things that you have difficulties finding. And yet, religion is something that people talk about, and it's part of their lives, and they believe wholeheartedly in it. But politics in this country seems to have overtaken religion or has become a competing religion because it consumes our lives. It takes center stage in our lives. People believe in what the politicians say or expect to believe or anticipate even more than they believe in their faith. If you look at the basic, definition of religion, and you call it a particular system of faith and worship, if you look at the way politics takes center stage in our lives as Kenyans, it is definitely a system of faith and worship. Look at the way people even treat politicians or people who are in authority. And this is because of the political system that we have. So our lives are actually taken over and controlled fully by politics and everything that is around it. Now, where the problem comes in is that the people who lead politics are human beings, and they're not infallible. They all have feet of clay. And at some time, that feet of clay will rear its head, if feet can rear their head, and and what they are, and the reality of what they are, will now take center stage, and you'll see the nature that they've always had, and they will fail because human beings, by their very nature, are fallible. How Kenyans justify and how we balance these two is what I always find of particular interest and actually worth discussing. Right now, you're talking about defections. This is nothing. There'll be a stampede.
Even those ones who went to, even the ones who went to swear their allegiance in one way or another, you would find that as the wind changes, so does the position. Very easy.
So you ask yourself a very simple question. First of all, disloyalty. At one point, you declared loyalty and uttered words that gave the impression that you die for that particular individual. Now the opportunity not to die, just the opportunity to make a stand has been provided. No death here. And people are not running to the hills. Well, they're running to the hills. If we are to go by these examples, all I'm saying is this. In putting our faith in politics, Kenyans have chosen false gods. And
so we've broken the first commandment.
Yes. The moment you worship a false god, what you can expect is disaster, nothing more.
So now it's basically gone all around city, talking about politicians, and ended up blaming us.
You choose who
that
to
we
follow.
Are the ones who have chosen to worship false gods.
You choose who to follow. You choose who to put your
faith in. We're going to be bashing politicians. You're bashing us.
No. Our politicians are a great reflection of just who we are and what we are. They represent us fully in more ways than we'd like to admit. If indeed we were what we claim to be and we were a Christian nation and we were actually Christians, believe me, these leaders of ours wouldn't be able to make the stand that they make and do the things they do because they'd be held accountable at every stage. But part of the reason why they get away with it is because we support what they do.
We trust them to lead us.
We trust them to do wrong. We are robbed blind by our governors, with the exception of a few who don't. We are robbed blind by our politicians who use the constitution development funds as though it is their own money. We were told by the former Auditor General that we lose close to half a
trillion.
Close to 1 trillion.
Yeah. 1 trillion.
Yes. Is that not the equivalent of what we need to pay for our debts on a yearly basis?
Yep.
Yes.
Precisely. So it means that the money that we borrow and which we intend to use for our purposes, most of it, that amount simply never goes anywhere.
So where did the rain start beating us? I like asking this question. So yes, here we are. We have these false gods that we've elevated and we are worshipping, and we call them Weshimiwa at every turn, right? Even the ones that we hope to become Weshimiwa, we call them Weshimiwa Mtarajiwa.
Yes.
At every turn, right? And so we have positioned them there and we are worshipping them. And they are, in turn, making sacrifices to the devil.
And
we can see them doing that. So is it that we have no foresight? Is it that we then are not the ones who can see, or are we making this decision willfully, knowingly?
The thing that your faith does for you, it more or less determines the direction your thinking will go and the actions that will follow. Because if you have a faith, call it whatever you like, and you sincerely believe in it, your actions will tell us whether your belief is actually real or not.
The person who coined the adage that actions speak louder than words actually knew what they were saying, because you can't tell me that you feel or believe a certain thing and then the things that you do thereafter are the total opposite. It just wouldn't. We're not able to reconcile the two. So if people on a regular basis are saying we are actually saying no to corruption, we're saying no to the blatant thievery that goes on, we are saying no to the status quo as it has been, we're saying no that children should not remain out of school, we're saying that no, the health system should not be in such a shambles, we're saying no that the state of infrastructure should not be the way it is, and we're saying no that a trillion shillings should not be inexplicable after an entire fiscal year. If you're saying no to such things, but then the person who is at the helm or would be seen to be making these decisions, you still vote them in next time.
You vote them in because you don't believe that they're the ones who actually perpetuated that. And those that you believe did, those that you believe failed, you vote them out.
You can even see that the person...
And you can see that happens.
You can even see that an individual... You can even see that an individual charges against them have been levied. Charges against them have been leveled. There is a question mark behind their name. Shade has been thrown upon their character, and you still choose not to believe it. You still choose to say, somebody else must be at fault. I'm still going to put this person back into government. Whatever happened to saying, okay, you know what?
If he or she is a thief, I would rather have our thief.
That's it, right there. You'd rather have your thief than the one that you don't know. Still continue stealing, because the one that you're stealing, we don't know if the person who's coming later will steal more than. So let's just continue with you. Seriously? Is that the point of cripple that the people are at? To say that, this is the thing. At least the person who's been stealing, we are getting a little bit. We don't know if the person who will come tomorrow will steal more and they'll give us nothing at all. Isn't that pathetic?
But Citi keeps reminding us all the time that he does not understand why we appear shocked when politicians do what they do.
You shouldn't be shocked.
It's the game of politics. It's the game. That's everywhere in the world. That's what politicians do. Politicians will sit. They'll pledge allegiance to one stronger politician. They'll pledge allegiance or even skip from that one to the next. They keep playing those games. Politicians will lie. Straight looking at you, they will lie. This is exactly what politicians do. So our politicians are not any different from any other politician in any other part of the world.
That doesn't make it okay.
To a politician
ours are actually different.
It doesn't make it okay.
Ours are different because the citizenry of some of these countries we speak of actually hold their politicians to account. And they are held to account. They're really, the standards that they speak of are actually maintained.
And practiced.
Ours make a habit of abrogating those standards at every given turn. Here we have some drama which is going to take place in the Senate not very long from now. And it involves the governor of Kirinyaga. It'll be interesting to watch how it turns out.
It'll be a political process.
You will find that in as much as there are people who are opposed to the governor, there are people who actually side with her.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are to point to those who side with her, some of the infractions that those who want her out have pointed out. Do you think they will even look at them as a possibility of something that will happen? No.
I think it's actually quite sad that when this thing came out to the fore, just about the impeachment of the governor for Kirinyaga, the thought that came out was, all right, this one is not going anywhere because in the past she's been a friend of the establishment.
Yes.
I think it is actually quite sad that would have been the first emotion or feeling.
I said it myself.
Yeah, it's quite sad that it would have been a country whereby you think the rule of law will be upheld, or you think that the sanity of government then will shine through beyond everything else. No. People actually believe, and you know what? People actually believe, this one is not going anywhere because she's in the good books with those who actually lead the nation.
And clearly
people from within the Senate themselves, are saying, oh, you know what? We're going to get up there. We're going to quote some parts of the Constitution. We're going to disagree vehemently, but we know at the end of the day what is going to happen. You have an opposition, right, of which it's actually being said that they're going to help this one clean her name. What are we talking about?
So let's not blame the people.
What are we talking about?
It is not the people. Let's take a break. 9:15, this is a situation room. Is Kenya's biggest conversation. C.T. Muga is saying, look, for a country that whose vast majority proclaims Christianity, we behave as if we are worshipping idols.
False gods.
False gods, all right. False gods is actually the word. And those gods are politicians.
Yes.
Okay. We'll be looking at the weather shortly, and then we'll have you join the conversation at some point. 0719-012-600. Good morning.
All right, still mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, and we're going to see rains in the early part of the afternoon with highs of 21 and lows of 12. In Nyeri at 16 degrees is still cloudy. This morning we will see rains later on, highs of 21. In Nakuru, where it's mostly cloudy this morning, we'll see highs of 22 and lows of 13 with showers for most parts of the afternoon. It's raining until a drizzle in Eldoret at 16 degrees, highs of 20 with thunderstorms in the afternoon. Kisumu is partly cloudy at 22 degrees. Highs of 26 will be accompanied by rains later in the day. Kakamega will be wet this afternoon with highs of 23 and currently at 19 degrees. Let's take a look into Malindi, where it's mostly cloudy at 28 degrees. Cloudy conditions to go through most of the day, highs of 29 and lows of 26. In Mombasa, it's partly cloudy at 27 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 24. All right, taking a look then into Kampala, where it's mostly cloudy at 21 degrees. Rains coming in later with highs of 24 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam is mostly sunny this morning, although there's a shallow fog in some parts of the city. Highs of 30 and lows of 22. Johannesburg is clear skies and mostly sunny conditions at 3 degrees. Highs of 14 and lows of 2. And then finally, for now, in Lagos, where the rains have come down this morning, 26 degrees. It'll be this way through most of the day, well into early morning. Highs of 31 and lows of 24.
It is 21 minutes after 9. This is the situation. Kenya's biggest conversation in the room. My name is Eric
Spice up your life.
Tundu and C.T. Muga, who is accusing you and I.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning.
How's that for a spin on what you said, CT?
Well, it isn't really a spin.
And it's the truth.
The only bit that isn't entirely true, I'm not actually accusing anyone. I'm merely stating a fact.
You're stating.
I'm just stating it because ask yourself what dominates our lives the most in this country. Ask yourself, in all honesty. The thing that people
It's politics.
give time to. Yes.
It's politics on a daily basis.
Yes.
Why? Because politics impacts our lives.
Yes, it does.
Right? And so, what's wrong with that?
It's wrong because it's actually held as captive.
Okay. We are unable to breathe.
Actually, it's a little more than that. You see,
knee on our neck.
This is beyond a knee on your neck. It's actually knee on your soul. Because when something or a system becomes the center of your life, you may not even think it is, but it is. It touches every area of your life, everything that you do. Everything is dependent on it. And the independence that you speak of is precisely that, the independence that you speak of. And you may actually think that it isn't true because you feel, but I vote. Even that vote, in essence, is more or less predetermined because it doesn't matter who you elect. We've asked this question in this room many times.
Yeah.
What happens? That person, once they're elected, you will keep asking, where did that person I elected go to? Because there's this person who has his body, but
not the same
this is not
person.
the same person. Now, so if you want to understand just how much it takes control of you, look at the people who get elected, what they start off as. Our guest earlier on, spitting fire. Magufuli was spitting fire before he was elected.
Yep.
He was transformative in every conversation that he has. Look at what he's turning out to be now.
The first few months of the Magufuli administration we heard about it here, and acclamation was widespread in Kenya, saying, this is what Kenya needs. This is actually what needs to happen here. Somebody walking into offices and shutting things down because things were not happening.
Things are not working. Things are not working. Let's ask our audience what they think about what you're saying this morning, CT. 0719012600. We have been held captive, consumed by the politics and politicians. Are we worshipping false gods? Daniel in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How is the Lion's Den?
Wow.
Very nice. And good morning, City. Now, let me just jump in very quickly and get out, yeah?
Yep.
I agree totally with what City is saying. I mean, we are a country that claims to be Christian and claims, quote unquote. But in practice, we are not. Where I disagree with City is blaming us for this. We are not at fault. We are products of a system that has been rigged against us from the word go. Look at the places where we're supposed to be getting the values that make us good Christians, the churches.
Yep.
Who gets the front seat at the churches?
The politicians.
The politicians who was abusing each other at a funeral yesterday, at a rally yesterday, gets to sit at the front of the church. In fact, this guy gets to be given the microphone at the top and go up on top of the pulpit, even reads the Bible.
Yep.
Verse and preaches to the whole congregations. You look at the picture that's already created in our minds at the place where we should be getting the whatever good morals from. Look at the politicians who are accused of stealing money from whichever government arm, money that should be coming down to us. They go to churches in brown envelopes on Sunday. They give that money. Even the pastors in the churches that we go to today, do you know what they preach? They preach that it is bad to be poor.
Yeah.
That in fact, when you're blessed, you're rich. Like richness is the kind of blessing that God gives these people. Well, that's not really what the Bible teaches. I mean, people who are blessed in other ways. Of course, there are people who are blessed with wealth, but there are people who are blessed with other gifts.
Yeah.
We are not told that in churches. So then we start looking at it, okay, it doesn't matter how I get the money.
As long as I have it.
Whichever way I get the money, it's okay. I'll be respected in church. I'll be closer to God, blah, blah, blah. Or in even case where I can't get the money, there's no problem with me voting in somebody who has questionable sources of money or character, because these people have been given sort of like a rubber stamp at that place where I should respect, which is the church.
Thank you, Daniel.
And so on and so forth. And this goes even into the way that we elect these people. The system has been rigged against us in the way that people who live in informal areas, the slums, the Madare, the Nyalendas, the Kibras that you talk about, they don't have a choice. I mean, how do I get to a point that I vote for the right person instead of voting for the person who gives me money, who feeds me, or who gives me handouts? It's because the system that's supposed to be doing things the right way, that's supposed to be collecting my garbage, the system that's supposed to be taking care of my social welfare is not working. So that system is rigged against me to favor this person who has questionable character. So it's not my fault that I make my decisions the way that I make them.
We blame the system.
So you're saying you have absolutely no control or say in your life?
It's
at various levels, a lot of people who make these decisions, who vote for these people, they do not have those choices. Some of us have these choices and are able to make these decisions, but the vast majority of Kenyans who are stuck there, they do not have that choice, and they should not be blamed for that.
Point made, Daniel. Thank you very much. Head back to the den. Solomon, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? It's been a while.
3 months later.
Oh, wow. Okay.
How are you? Are you okay, Solomon?
We are okay. We are in somewhere. You work in one county and live in another county.
Okay.
So in the coastal region, we are all under lockdown.
Pauleni.
Yeah. Now,
what do you think?
My thinking is, like yesterday I listened to Tindi Nyoro and in a vernacular station. And he said totally different things by what he says in public and his posts. He said, as politicians, they are given money to develop. It is not a favor they do us. It is a job description they're supposed to do. The same case, you go to work, you're supposed to deliver, then you get paid. But when they come to the podium, they say totally different. That's the problem we have. We think these people, it's a favor they do to us. When they build roads, they put water, electricity, and any kind of development. It is not a favor they do to us. It is what they are mandated to do. Because you pay taxes, KRA takes money, give it to Exchequer gives it to them as CDF or maybe like them the county cash that they're given.
The development money, yes.
Yes. So as citizens, we should not think it's like a favor. And based on our Christianity values, like what you said, it's around 85%. Let's say 100% Kenya is religious.
Yep.
Either Muslim, Hindu, or Christian.
There's a certain percentage that will say that they're atheists. So let's say 98% of the country.
Because, but even if they are atheists, for example, they have those what called moral value. So a mindset to know what is right,
what's wrong,
and what is wrong. And that because all these religions, they came to us around 100 years ago. So before that, we had morals before with the African custom. So if we determine what is right and what is wrong, that should be the best way. If my politician is corrupt, he should go home.
Thank you.
If my mother, for example, if my parent or my brother is a politician or someone in government procurement and is very corrupt, he needs to go home.
You should call them out.
But what we do is we are targeted. My brother is targeted. So, and you find these people has, for example, you find a clerk, he has over $1 billion worth of properties. He stole this money by himself. He doesn't give you anything. But sisi na ujinga wetu tuenda kumtetea tu.
Solomon, thank you for that. Zachary Nakuru, good morning.
Oh, good morning.
How are you?
Morning.
I had to eat and I'm okay, and I spent my weekend okay. And I hope you people did, yeah?
We did.
So is Mwalimu faring well still?
Mwalimu is here.
Oh, Mwalimu Andrew, hi.
Salama sana kaka, uko mzima?
Kabisa Mwalimu.
Yes.
Yeah, and we pray that God continues taking care of you.
Thank you.
So, Mwalimu is saying that due to the fact that a vast majority, and he says 85% or thereabouts of the country's population is Christian, and yet we see the kind of treatment that we accord our politicians, and then our politicians go ahead and do exact opposite of what we expect them to do, but we still, place them highly in our society. We have basically become a society that worships false gods.
Okay, let me tell you first. If I'm selling avocados and I go to a church and those guys tell me, okay, can you give these things on credit? And also I go to a bar, a bar where people are drinking, they tell me, okay, sell me these avocados on credit. To answer your question, I would rather agree or believe the guys in the back, and that one is done, Don't ask me why, but I have answered your first question, The second question is, why do politicians believe? Mwalimu is there, will tell you that he has been in schools and universities, and he has seen so many people solving equations, very complicated equations. How did they get them right? And some of them are professorship, But nobody, even in this earth or on this earth, has been able to solve the equation of money plus power and plus authority equals to what? Let me tell you this. Today, if you are elected the MCA, Mr. Ratif, let me say of a certain word in Nairobi. Since the day you are sworn in, the next day you are want to see people coming to tell you problems. They are queuing there. They are telling you problems that we have not eaten. So we have got a sick person and we can't take him or her to hospital. Others will come and tell you, my husband is having so many sleep-ins. He is not helping us. So can you step in? All these problems you are expected to solve. And when you get to the next shopping center, everyone will stop doing what they are doing so that they come and they praise you, they sing for you, And of course, you have money. So these things tend to corrupt our minds, and we see ourselves as tomorrow God. Do you see? And now that one tells us that, Kube, we are small gods. Now you change your character, okay?
You become a god.
Yeah, you become a god. And also, the for the state, like you now people, yeah? You mostly talk about politicians, eh? What are politicians proposing? What are they doing? What are they saying, yeah? And when they continue doing it more, you also kind of find yourself that, oh, I'm being talked to more than Jesus, so I would rather go with it. You know, there's somebody who said you would rather go with the television, yeah? So, when you are talking, of me, if I'm a politician like Mr. Trump, yeah? I will come there and tell you journalists are terrible, okay? I'll say, I call you terrible, okay? And that is the issue now. Otherwise, I wish you a good day.
Thank you, Zachary.
Why did I say hi to all of you?
Thank you.
Say hello to Waivers. And all the best to her. 25 minutes to 10, 0719-012-600. Who has the power, the politician or the people? And that's, of course, based on what we've been discussing lately, the kind of politics that we are seeing, the back and forth in the Jubilee Party, Tanga Kieleweke, people trooping to see Raila Odinga in Upper Hill, trying to get themselves back into the good books of the leader of the Jubilee Party by going to see the leader of the opposition party. What's happening? Is it a Jubilee governor has been impeached by her county assembly? The opposition party is saying that we stand with this Jubilee governor. What's happening in this country? Good morning. Let's take a look at traffic.
Okay, Donholm seems to be providing some issues this morning. There's traffic trying to head out of this area and into the city centre, and it's actually looking a bit crazy. The Eastern Bypass, that is normally used as an alternative to get into town, is clogged up this morning, all the way from the turnoff at what used to be the Taj Mall, and then going down that direction is a problem, guys, this morning. Thika Road inbound, heavy traffic still coming from Muthaiga, all the way down beyond Safari Park Hotel, towards then the Utali Drift, and then out towards the Pangani Underpass. Guys, it's crazy this morning. It's going to need a dash of patience to this recipe that is already madness. Mombasa Road, where we saw an accident happen earlier, is clearing up a little bit, but it's still a gridlock. And then trying to get out to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, guys, and then on to Huru Highway, and then into the CBD, and then on towards Westlands, moving very slowly. Patience is needed this Monday morning. Do tell us what you see so that we can help everybody keep it moving. Spice FMKE, that's on Twitter.
23 to 10, this is a situation in which Kenya's biggest conversation on Spice FM, 94.4 Nairobi, Mombasa 4.9 on the 4.5 Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, Eldoret 96.7, 90.9.
Mature,
Nyeri,
intelligent talk every morning.
Malindi.
Spice up your
phone line 0719-012-600. Jeff in Kwale, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
We're well, thank you, Jeff. How are you?
I'm okay. I've been following you for the last 1 hour.
Right.
And I have two things to contribute. One, about the gentleman who was calling from Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
I can only compare whatever is happening to Tanzania with what happened in Kenya when Moi was president.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he started so well. And Moi was everything. He was the best farmer. He was the best carpenter. He was the best marshal. And that is exactly how Magufuli came in. But I always say this. There's no way you'll go and get a person is missing from office and instantly fire them because there are laws that are followed to fire a person.
Mm-hmm.
But did you expect that person to be a god? Suppose their wife was sick, so they had a sick child maybe. Maybe they had an issue that they had gone to solve. That is why they didn't come.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to think that was a wrong approach.
Yep.
But closer home,
yep.
I'm going to tell you a story that happened once. I went home just before the last elections. And I found my mother sitting under a mango tree with some women, and I asked them, who are you intending to vote in here?
Mm-hmm.
They told me, hey, yule mama wetu. I'm not going to talk about her because she's already everywhere in the news. And I said, didn't you hear what she did in NYS? And Mama told me, we want her because we want the money she stole from there. So if that is how people are arguing, then we are starting on the wrong vote. I think I'm
sure you've spoken to your mom since then. I'm sure you have spoken.
She has changed her mind completely. I'm saying they made a mistake.
Why?
But now,
because she didn't bring the money?
Not only didn't she bring the money, but I think the biggest problem in that county currently is, they sacked all the doctors that participated in a strike.
Yep.
All of them. Even after agreeing that let them come back.
Mm-hmm.
She sacked all of them, and now healthcare is an issue there. A big issue.
Okay.
So that is why Mom was, or most of those other women now might not support her. But the other issue is also in that county. The other issue there is pending bills. She refused to pay all the pending bills. And despite what the government was saying, let all pending bills be paid, she refused to pay them. But now you can see what is happening. But by and large, I think Kenya, we have a major problem. The way to solve the problem is to change the rules. Why do we expect the politicians to come and build roads for us? Why do we expect the government to come and pay CDF money for us, pay for our bursaries for our children? Why can't we have systems like the developed nations where, for example, if it's the county government, let it run everything efficiently? The politicians would have nothing to do with bribing us.
At the helm of whatever system you come up with, there's going to be a politician. Because you need to elect somebody who's accountable for ensuring that system works.
Exactly. And one of the recommendations I had thought of with friends, I told them, maybe we made a mistake. Maybe at the county level we needed to have a governor who is not a politician, who is not elected. Probably a person who would be vetted by the Public Service Board in the public, openly.
Okay.
If you have anything against them, you bring it. And then the person is interviewed, we score them, they come with their manifesto, what they are intending to achieve in the next 5 years for the county.
But consider, did we not take that step with our ministers?
Yes, we did. But
and how did that go?
Look, are they accountable to the common Mwananchi?
Those are actually not even appointed. They are appointed by the appointing authority, who is one person.
Yes.
Exactly. So what I want,
not a board.
If the governors were appointed by, if they were appointed the way I'm saying,
like a committee of the local community.
Exactly.
So we give the power to elect our leader to a small group of people, basically.
Like an electoral college in the US?
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Not really. You see the vetting that we do for these ministers that wanachukuliwa kwa national government?
Yes.
That is what I'm having in mind. If we can have such a vetting, then I think we might go into the right direction.
Good point. I think we can raise that one day as a particular topic on how we should elect our leaders, how to ensure that we have a functional executive, government at whatever level, and how best to appoint them. Thank you very much, Jeff, for calling in from Kwale.
Thank you.
And keep it right here on Spice FM. Kennedy in Mombasa, good morning.
Habari za asubuhi.
Asubuhi yangu njema, habari yako?
Nashukuru sana. Naomba niongee kwa Kiswahili.
Endelea tu.
Muga ajambo.
Baba si jambo, sijui wewe.
Nashukuru. Na dadangu hapo kando.
Si jambo.
Sasa mimi ningependa kuchangia kwa sababu wapiga kura ambaye ndio sisi tuna matatizo. Sisi watu tunapiga kura alafu baadaye kura huwa zinakuja zinatupiga. Sijui kwa nini, utaniruhusu niseme kwa nini? Wakati tukimchagua mgombea huwa tunamchagua kwa jazba, sio kwa hekima. Alafu baadaye tunakuja kugundua kuwa tuliyemchagua siye yule ambaye tunayemhitaji. Sasa inakuwa ngumu tena kurudi nyuma, kwa sababu mfumo wa kura ni kuwa kumuondoa yule tayari ushamchagua. Yani utapitia taratibu nyingi ambazo haitowezekana. Sasa inabaki tunaweka lawama.
Unapigwa na kura kwa miaka 5.
Sasa unapigwa na kura baada ya ushapiga kura. Sasa tatizo linalotokea pia ni ule mfumo wa serikali. Mimi nimepiga kura ili nipate huduma. Kwa mfano kusanya taka ambazo tumetumia, ambazo zimetupwa, tunataka zikusanywe na county. Sisi hatufai kuomba. Yani inatakiwa wao ndio wafanye kazi yao. Yani sisi ni kama tumepiga kura afu tena tunaanza kubegi tufanywe hizi kazi. Yani haiendani kabisa. Sasa unakuta mpiga kura akishafanya makosa yake ya kwanza ya kupiga kura, yanaojiri baadaye sasa huwa kuyarudia, yani kuyarekebisha inakuwa ngumu, haitowezekana.
Lakini baada ya miaka 5 mbona huyu mpiga kura asibadili anavyopiga kura?
Sasa ndo pale jazba inatumika. Hatumi tena hekima.
Unarudi tena kwenye jazba.
50, 100, 1000, atakurudi tena apige kura vile vile kwa kutumia ile hekima aliyotumia ule wakati. Huo ni upande wa mpiga kura. Sasa nirudi kwa serikali. Serikali sasa na upande wake ndio hata uwezi kurekebishika. Manake wale wameenda kwa nia zao, sio kwa nia zetu wananchi. Unakuta mbunge anasema yeye kazi yake ni maendeleo. Mbunge hahusiani na maendeleo. Mbunge anafaa kutuwakilisha yeye kule atengeneze sheria zitakazotusaidia sisi huku kuimprove life zetu. Sio yeye anatuambia ati mimi nimekuja nikajenga shule, nikajenga shule. Yeye anahusiana wapi na maendeleo? Hata hizi pesa za CDF hazifai kwa mbunge, zingechukuliwa hata zipeane hata madiwani.
Kweli.
Kwa sababu wao watu wanatuchezea akili. Kwa nini wao watuambie kuwa wao wanaturepresent kwenye bunge, tena kesho unakuta huko na kwamba mimi nimejenga shule? Yeye anahusiana wapi na maendeleo? Sasa mpiga kura amekosa elimu. Sio amekosa elimu, hataki elimu. Wakenya wengi wamesoma, Wakenya wengi wamesoma.
Kwa hivyo sasa turudi pale ambapo mpiga kura anafaa tumie hekima anapopiga kura.
Sasa hapo ndio kwenye tatizo.
Hi, Kennedy, thank you very much for calling. Let's speak to Geoffrey, who's also in Mombasa. Geoffrey, good morning.
Good morning to you guys. How are you?
Fine, well. Thank you.
Well, I just want to make a quick comment regarding the issue of Christianity in this country and the issue of leadership in this country. Regarding Christianity, we have a problem as a country who are Christians because we tend to listen to the preachers and we don't read the Bible ourselves. Many times when the pastor is in the spirit, you realize he'll pick on verses or chapters that when you go and counter-check, you realize they are non-existent. Because we don't read the Bible for ourselves. That's why many times we make wrong choices when it goes to leadership. But let me cut my long story short. Aftermath of Rwanda genocide, there was a meeting in Rwanda where the presidency of Africans and Bill Clinton, the former president of the U.S., was invited. African president made long speeches. But when Bill Clinton stood, because they were expecting maybe he's going to cover everything that they said. But he ended up saying the problem of Rwanda lies with the Rwandese, they themselves. And indeed, they realized where the problem was. And here they are, they've fixed their country and they are moving forward. The problem of this country lies with us as citizens making wrong choices in terms of leadership and going to wrong churches where the right doctrine of Christianity is not preached.
Hey.
God bless you too. Have a great day.
Thank you, Geoffrey. God bless you too. Robert in Nakuru, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Robert?
Fine.
So, Robert, are you worshipping false gods? Do you believe what CT is saying? Christians, I'm assuming you're a Christian because of your name, Robert.
Yeah. Okay, I am. But the fact that we say as a true Christian, as a believer, the fact that you see a fake Kenyan man does not mean that we don't have the original. In fact, the fake money exists because
there's an original somewhere.
Yeah. So you can say that there are still those guys who perpetuate the bad doctrine. Now, if the politics of this country, I think sometimes there are those who make the right judgment, voters, and the problem is the political thing itself, because it is kind of it's not competitive. I think if we were to stiffen it, like people are not supposed like to be paid a higher amount of money, we make it almost a voluntary kind of a thing, so that let us get the right people who have the right spirit for the people, not money. If I want to go to get money in the politics, I would just draw money and get in. I will get in, and then I know how to get another kind of money in the same thing.
Yeah.
So we have the wrong people because their objective is to get money because they are less money. What about if we were to stiffen it in a way that to get money, it's just about it's only a part of it. The bigger part is where you have a passion for people. You are serving whether there's money or not. You are there for the people, not money. Then at least we can be able to deal with those individuals who are just objective of the money.
Thank you, Robert.
The other thing, maybe I would say, if you are to consider the Kirinyaga thing, what is happening there, it can indicate to you clearly that we have two people who are independent voters, candidates, won. I think they are speaking louder that the Kirinyaga people voted for the president, but the people who maybe the president wanted to be the governor, they were not really on her. Actually, it's kind of, they have not been with her all along. That's why we have independent people. They were there, but it's kind of, they were not satisfied with how the election was conducted.
Yeah.
They opted the president way. Yeah. So they have not been in that right. So it will be very bad if we treat them, the young, and we give them the wrong person. That's why they have been struggling. Yeah, nobody, they are struggling.
Good points. Good points. Thank you very much, Robert. He's actually saying, Kirinyaga has the person who led that vote, who moved the impeachment motion, is an independent MCA. Even the senator for Kirinyaga is an independent senator. So there are very many independents. Yes, people who voted for Uhuru Kenyatta, but people did not want to align themselves with the party per se, maybe at the looking at the structures. So, coming back to what you were saying earlier, City, I mean, so we are at that point where, and you've heard from what the callers are saying, we have a system that, someone said, we have a system that has sort of encapsulated us. So we cannot really free ourselves from the system.
We can.
How do we do that?
If you call yourself a Christian, you really have no excuse. You know why? You have a manual of operation. It's called the Bible. So the only excuse is if you can't read. But if you're too lazy to read from this book that is supposed to actually give you a very clear path to follow, then how is it that someone is going to mislead you when you can see clearly that this is not what I'm supposed to do? When it comes to why I juxtapose the two, politicians will come and tell you that one political leader who comes from a certain region is a horrible man. You will not bother to sit and think for a second and say, okay, fine. What is actually bad about this person? What are these things that this person has done that makes him bad? The same could be said about leadership. You're being told this person is good. You don't ask, okay, surely. Kirinyaga people clearly asked that question. They did. And you can see by the representation they have. There are people who opted and said, no, this is not the route we're going. They read the manual of operation and decided, apana.
We're not going by this.
Yes. Now, all I'm saying is, the thing that is God-given and which you cannot take away from anybody is something called the will. Everybody has it. That independence, the ability to think freely, we all have it.
And upon that, to make a choice.
You have it. Now, whether life has beaten you to a point where making that choice is usually predetermined by the direction which you think you'll benefit from is a different matter. But you have it. Now, when you've chosen a certain path and you've chosen that path to actually be the fulcrum from which your life operates, it has become your religion. That's really all I'm saying. It has become your faith.
It takes over.
Yes, and the object that is at the center of what you have placed your faith in becomes your God. And that's why I said, a false God.
Do you see the sense in what this man is saying?
Yeah, I don't look. Unfortunately, it's weird for me to really believe that people who do have a will, regardless of where you are, can now say that we've been shackled by a system, and apart from the system, then we don't have an opportunity to make a decision. I don't think so. I think that one of the strongest things that you will ever deal with is the will of man, or on earth.
That system, for example, let's say, all right, that the MCAs in Kirinyaga, the MCAs had the will, and they looked at it and they saw, we are not being led well. Our executive is not being managed very well. So as the legislature, we use the tools that we have, and we want to remove the governor, all right? But the system says that you're not the final arbiters. There shall be somebody else. If those other people, now we are seeing ODM plans to save Waiguru, this is what Junaid Mohammed is saying, and he's very close to Raila Odinga, so we are expecting that, unless Raila Odinga says, I do not agree with what ODM, with what Junaid is saying, unless we hear from that, we basically expect that the leadership of ODM is standing by her. And then if we hear also from what Kangata had said, well, it depends on the leadership of the Jubilee. If the leadership of Jubilee wants her to stay, she stays. That system, what is it that the person in Nani's mom, Jeff's mom in Kirinyaga, what is she going to do? She's sitting there, she's disgruntled, she's feeling that, well, I made the wrong choice and I'd like this person to be removed, and the system works against her.
So you're saying that,
how will she will herself out of this?
Oh, I think will also then is will in one direction or another is part of a recipe towards action. Towards action to say, even if you open your mouth, but unfortunately what we have is that people then who are supposedly shackled to this system, which you say doesn't work for me in one way or another, then exacerbate it more by keeping quiet. You shut your mouth and then you say, okay, well, I'm a victim of the system and I'm just going to carry on with that, and we move on. And I think we have way too many people doing that. And I've said it before, and I said it again. Anybody who complains about this system is not irritated enough, is not frustrated enough, has not suffered enough, has not been pushed to the wall. Because I'm telling you, you're pushed to the wall, things are not working, you don't like it, you will open your mouth. But by virtue of the fact that people are not opening their mouths, they're not agitating against this supposed system. You're not hearing rumblings until something goes wrong. Omo, they're not off our reach.
The Tsar must go home.
Remember, people who actually comprise the opposition and people who comprise opposition politics for the longest time.
Cut from the same cloth.
Yes, well, they were there because they disagreed with what they were saying. They said no.
Yeah. That's how they got into that place in the first place.
We don't agree.
Because it was bubbling and they said, no, this fire, pan, no, I'm not doing. I'm irritated, I must do something about it. I must speak of it.
Be different.
And it wasn't easy. It wasn't as though life was made easy for them. It wasn't.
No.
All right. This conversation continues, and it continues on our social media handles, Spice FM KE on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. As we come to the end of the show, CT, tell us about the dog and the tail, and give us some relevance to today's life.
It's really simple. I mean, be careful about the decisions you make.
Start with the proverb.
Be careful about the decisions you make. Do not step on the dog's tail, and he will not bite you. You see, if you take it literally and you're walking, essentially watch where you step.
Right.
There are other things you can step on which may not necessarily bite you, but you may not necessarily be happy with them. Now, there are times when it could be argued that you're actually actively looking for trouble. Yes, if you do not take the right steps, or if you head in a direction that will clearly land you in trouble, you are looking for trouble. And as I said, trouble will find you.
Fire will burn you. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Ndu?
Yes. You must remember there's still COVID. Keep safe. Do what you need to do. Maintain social distance. Put on your mask when you need to.
And physical distance. City?
Let the conversation continue.
Let this conversation continue indeed. Now until 2 p.m. uninterrupted music, sugar and spice and everything nice. And then Monique will be here and she'll be taking you home on Spice Drive from 2 to 6 p.m. And the adults in the room, Emmanuel, Eric and Barbara, will be here from 7 to 10. Good morning. Have a good day. See you again tomorrow in the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. CT Muga, Nduoko, Eric Latif. Signing off. It's 10 o'clock.